Chapter 972. However, that did not matter. This astral banner would be his soon. No matter how powerful a secret treasure was, the other party would run out of energy eventually. Receive another saber strike from me. Avicii Hell, 8 Division Heavenly Ghost. Xiao Qin shouted and took 8 steps in the air. With each step, he left behind an unscattering ghost image in the air. His aura continued to soar. After 8 steps, the saber light in Xie Zishuan's hand was like a ghost attacking, shaking the world. Qing Cheng's expression turned grave. The might of this saber strike was sufficient to shatter the barrier of the starry heavens and injure her. She could not leave even if she wanted to. She could only clench her teeth and endure. She circulated the law energy in her body, preparing to resist this saber strike head-on. Whoosh! Just at this moment, Qing Cheng suddenly felt that the cycle banner no longer obeyed her commands. She squinted and saw a white figure flashing by, holding the cycle banner in his hand. With a casual wave, the 7 stars returned to their positions. Then, Xiao Chun drove his law energy, bringing out all the power of massacre, death, and ruin in Merak, Migres, and Fekta. Massacre, ruin, and death. 3 ancient black characters materialized on the banner pole. The 3-colored light mixed with the starlight and immediately formed a vast sea with undulating waves. The will of massacre, the sound of ruin, and the sound of silent death reverberated endlessly in the air. The cycle banner's might was completely unleashed. Boom! It blocked Xie Zishuan's 8 Division Heavenly Ghost in midair. Qing Cheng's face lit up in joy. Xiao Chun finally arrived. If he had been any later, the consequences would have been hard to predict. Xie Zishuan spun around, and the afterimages of the 8 Division Heavenly Ghost returned to his back. He showed a slightly shocked expression. He had not expected the cycle banner to erupt with such might. However, when he stood still and saw Xiao Chen's cultivation, he calmed down. Then he looked at the 8 ghost palanquin behind him and understood what was going on. The 2 exchanged secret treasures. Xiao Chen could not help but smile. The Ghost Empress, Shi Sun's favorite disciple, actually chose a human cultivator who was only a superior grade martial sage. If they didn't have a close relationship, why would they exchange secret treasures? Qing Cheng, is this the reinforcement you spoke of? My ghost race has so many talented geniuses, yet you actually chose a human cultivator. Xiao Chan was slightly stunned. He did not know what this person meant. He handed the cycle banner back to Qing Cheng and said, "Go and save Bai and the others. Leave this to me." "You want to leave? Ask me first." Xie Zishuan's figure split up again. Each of his 8 clones held a weapon. The vague outline of the Avicii Hell descended from the sky. Torrential death aura poured out endlessly, looking extremely terrifying. Xiao Chen's expression involuntarily turned grave. This saber technique was really strange. He did not know how it was cultivated, but the mysterious phenomenon it materialized was actually so real. However, he didn't have the time to think of a way to break it. He could only break it with brute force. A beam of divine light descended from the sky. Xiao Chun executed the myriad heaven divine fist deities descending. Xiao Chun charged up 3 dragon force. Due to the limitations of his body, he did not dare to bring out the 10-fold combat prowess, so he held back a small portion. His punch instantly reached 20 dragon force. 20 heaven dragon images roared ferociously behind Xiao Chun. Dragon might spread out endlessly. Bang! The might of one punch shattered the vague outline of the Avicii held before Xie Zishuan's incredulous gaze, collapsing completely. The 8 clones fell to the ground at the same time and vomited a mouthful of blood before merging back together. Xiao Chen's pale face turned ashen as he coughed endlessly. He felt like his internal organs had all cracked. Xie Zishuan glanced at Xiao Chun in horror. Then, he stood up and fled in a sorry state. Xiao Chun did not give chase. He looked at the cracked skin on his palm and the aching bones under the flesh. He frowned slightly and said, "It looks like 10 dragon force is what my body can endure. If I add another 10 dragon force, I might not be able to endure it. At most, I can use it twice in a row." Ching Chung, who had not flown far away, rushed over to help. When she saw Xie Zishuan quickly fleeing, she felt somewhat dazed. Xiao Chan felt a little dazed. Why did such a huge change happen the moment he turned around? Xie Zishuan had used a secret technique to summon the 5 gigantic ice phantoms together with a single-use secret treasure. Now that the other party had fled in defeat, the summoning ice phantoms naturally fled far away. When Xiao Chan saw the 500-meter-tall ice phantoms, he trembled in fear. He did not know how Xie Zishuan had summoned them. The other party's final saber technique was also very strange. If not for a fortuitous encounter, Xiao Chun would not have been able to increase his vital qi significantly. Even Xiao Chen's subduing dragon profound slash would not have been able to break it. At most, it would have been slightly stronger. It would not have forced the other party to retreat so decisively. When Bai and the others met up, Xiao Chen heard about what happened. Then, he stared at Qing Cheng's startling face. Xiao Chan was the one who caused the 2 troubles in the 9 layers of purgatory. Qing Cheng felt somewhat diffident from Xiao Chen's stare. She said, "Don't look at this lady." Who could have imagined that Xie Zishuan just happened to break through and even ran into him in the 9 layers of purgatory? However, Xiao Chun did not say anything. He quickly stretched out his hand, and his fingertip landed on Qing Cheng's forehead. Before Qing Cheng could react, she felt the restriction of the cold saber qi that Xiao Chun left in her body slowly draining away. After all the cold qi was gone, Xiao Chun withdrew his hand. A crystalline ice wandering flower appeared in his palm. Qing Cheng heaved a sigh of relief. Then, she looked at Xiao Chun with a strange expression and asked, "What do you want to do?" Xiao Chun smiled faintly and replied, "What do you want me to do?" Seeing Xiao Chen's expression that was not a smile, Qing Cheng blushed slightly. After a while, her expression returned to normal. She asked, "Why did you remove the restriction? Are you not afraid that I will sneak away? Let's go. We don't need you on the road to the Yellow Springs anymore." The moment Xiao Chen said that, the others could not help but find it strange. They did not know why Xiao Chan made such a decision. Even Qing Cheng felt surprised. Then she rejoiced. She smiled and said, "Since you said it, you can't go back on your word. This lady is not going back on my word." Xiao Chun said calmly, "If you still don't leave, I might change my mind. I'll lend you the cycle banner. Leave your 8 ghost palanquin to me. We can exchange it after we come out." Qing Cheng giggled and took the ice-wandering flower from Xiao Chen's hand. She said, "That suits me. I'll take care of this flower. As a reward, I'll give you a sentence. Don't look back on the road to the Yellow Springs." Melodious laughter echoed in Xiao Chen's ears. Qing Cheng's figure flashed, moving far away. In a few breaths, she disappeared from the sight of Xiao Chun and the others. "Xiao Chun, why did you let her go? We will definitely need her for the rest of the journey," Kong Yuan said, feeling confused. The few of them had long suspected that Xiao Chun and Qing Cheng were not friends. At this moment, they were not surprised that Xiao Chun laid his cards on the table. They only felt that it was strange that Xiao Chun let Qing Cheng go. Xiao Chun said softly, "We met with trouble twice in a row because of her. I don't know if it is a coincidence or if she played some trick. In any case, if she is not willing to go, let her be. This matter is very important. I'm not willing to gamble." Everyone thought for a while. This was indeed too much of a coincidence. If there were such coincidences along the way, it would be very troublesome. It would be fine if it was a coincidence. However, if it was not, it would be terrifying. Let's rest here for the night. We will continue on our journey tomorrow. The few of them had experienced a huge battle and were definitely somewhat fatigued. Xiao Chun had overloaded himself with 20 dragon force. His body needed time to recover as well. The sin-mirroring hell was filled with mirror-like glaciers. There was no distinction between day and night. Resting for the night was just getting used to the division of time on land. The group remained silent. Amidst the silence, Bai and the others slowly circulated their qi. Xiao Chun looked at the cracks on his skin. The wounds had not healed yet, and there were still many tiny cracks in his bones. Occasionally, he felt pain. After obtaining the Flood Dragon scissors, Xiao Chun gained an additional 2 dragon force. However, his body did not absorb much divine materials, which could not keep up with the growth of his vital qi. Otherwise, with his tenfold combat prowess and 30 dragon force, Xiao Chun was confident of dealing with a great Grandmaster-level martial sage of the ghost race, catching him off guard and even severely injuring him. On the surface, the divine materials that Xiao Chun absorbed in the heavenly ruin wasteland only increased his strength by 1 dragon force. However, it was steady and steady. The divine materials had already strengthened his physical body. Otherwise, Xiao Chun would not have dared to burst out with 10 dragon force with a rank 3 sage body. That ghost race great Grandmaster level martial sage clearly had a peak rank 4 sage body, which was why he could casually bring out 10 dragon force. However, it was still somewhat taxing for him to bring out 15 dragon force. If the other party's physical body could keep up, given his hundreds of years of accumulations, he should be able to triple his combat prowess and bring out 30 dragon force. Unfortunately, the other party did not have the blue dragon body nourishing art, a heaven-defying cultivation technique like that was stuck at the bottleneck of his physical body. Without a fortuitous encounter, he would not be able to take another step forward. Xiao Chun thought to himself, after I go out, the auction for the longevity fruit that Ing Qiong helped organize should be over. At that time, I will use this large sum of astral coins to search for secret treasures containing dragon souls and raise my basic dragon energy to 10 dragon force. Once I enter the second layer of the blue dragon body nourishing art, my physical body will advance to a rank 4 sage body. On the other side, after Qing Cheng traveled 50 kilometers, she stopped before an icy peak. She looked around expressionlessly, and her lips started to move silently. Waves of cryptic information quickly spread in all directions. In just a short moment, 2 figures quickly flew towards Qing Cheng. One of them was Jiang Qingzi, who had been defeated by Xiao Chun. The other was an old man who was a bona fide great grandmaster. Congratulations on breaking free, young miss, the 2 said joyfully when they landed. Qing Cheng nodded slightly and said, how did Xiao Chen's strength improve so much in such a short time? He managed to shatter Xie Zixuan's Avicii hell with 1 punch. Did you discover anything while following behind him? Jiang Chengzi answered honestly. He seems to have cultivated a strange cultivation technique that can absorb secret treasures to increase his strength. After he absorbed the flood dragon scissors, his strength increased explosively. So that's how it is. Qing Cheng toyed with the frost-lingering flower in her hand, thinking of something. Jiang Chengzi looked around and suggested, young miss, since you already broke free, should we make a move on Xiao Chen? Elder Han is still observing them from a distance. The death qi of the 9 layers of purgatory shrunk the senses of cultivators. However, the ghost race cultivators were not restricted, so they had a great advantage. The moment Qing Cheng stepped into the mute desert, she used the ghost race's secret language to inform the experts of the Ghost Empress faction in the 9 layers of purgatory to follow her. Chapter 973. However, Xiao Chen's spiritual sense was limited. Furthermore, Qing Cheng's movements were very secretive, so he did not discover her. Qing Cheng put away the wandering flower in her hand and said with a serious expression, you are so long-winded. Since when is it your turn to make decisions? Call Elder Han back and have him help me find a stalk of soul-returning grass in 1 month. Jiang Qingzi could not help feeling stunned after being reprimanded. However, he still obeyed the order and left. Qing Cheng hesitated for a while before saying, Marshal Uncle Feng, just continue following them. Inform me when you reach the gates of hell. I should make a trip to the Yellow Springs Road and the Bridge of Helplessness. After the old man left, Qing Cheng summoned out the cycle astral banner. The entire banner pole flickered with black death qi. She muttered, with the help of this boundless death qi, I should be able to break through my bottleneck in 1 month. Xie Zixuan, at that time, let me see if the spirit technique is weak or not. After 1 night, Xiao Chun and the others recovered to their peak states. Then, they started to follow the directions on the map and rushed to the 8th layer of the skin-flaying hell. Along the way, They had to pass through several layers of hell. Each layer had changed during the martial epoch, but the danger had not decreased at all. Without Qing Cheng's directions, Xiao Chun and the others moved much slower. Sometimes they even took some detours, even running into some forbidden areas. However, there were benefits as well. There were no more coincidences, and they did not have to fight with other ghost race experts. After spending close to 1 month, the four finally arrived at the 8th layer of the skin-flaying hell. This was a vast forest made up of black iron trees. Intact human skins hung from the treetops, looking sinister and horrifying. The group carefully walked through the forest, heading for the legendary place of certain death, the place where one breathed the last breath of life. Practically no other cultivators could be seen in the 8th layer of hell. No other sounds could be heard in the forest, either inspiring extreme pressure. In addition, there were countless intact human skins. When the wind blew, they would sway. It was as if they were alive, and it would make one's hair stand on end. However, as Xiao Chen walked in fear, nothing happened. He arrived at the shore of Last Breath Lake. Xiao Chen vaguely felt that something was wrong, and he became even more cautious. The Last Breath Lake definitely did not have an undeserved reputation. Otherwise, the phrase Last Breath Lake would not have spread so widely in the world. The four arrived at the shore of Last Breath Lake without any mishaps. Then they stood by the lake, not moving forward. Along the way, every level of hell had different dangers, and the hell of skinning was no exception. The water of the Last Breath Lake was clear and translucent, flat like a mirror, and its surface emanated strands of cold air. Standing on the shore, Zhang Xian had to circulate his Jinqi to resist the cold. Otherwise, if the cold energy entered his body and turned into cold poison, it would be quite troublesome. What a heavy chill. Brother Xiao Chun, where is the gates of hell? How we get there? I looked at the boundless lake and asked Xiao Chun. Qing Cheng said that the gates of hell were in the middle of the lake. However, all she could see was the smooth surface of the lake. She did not see any sign of the gates of hell. There was an island in the middle of the lake, but it was too far to see clearly. Xiao Chen muttered to himself for a while. Then he grasped the air with his right hand, and he caught some air currents. Then he quickly formed hand seals with his left hand, executing the life bestowal spell. Soon, a figure similar to Xiao Chun landed on the ground. Right now, Xiao Chen's magic energy had increased greatly. He could execute the life bestowal spell with a casual grab. However, the vessel was not a spiritual item, so it would not have much combat prowess. Under Xiao Chen's command, the puppet leaped into the air and flew towards the surface of the Last Breath Lake. However, before it landed on the water, it was frozen into an ice sculpture. The puppet landed in the water with a splash, and Xiao Chen's spiritual sense broke. His expression could not help but turn grave. Kong Yuan frowned and said, "This cold qi is extraordinarily horrifying. I estimate that we can only bring out 60 to 70% of our strength at best. If only that Qing Cheng were here, she would know what to do." Standing in such a biting cold qi, one would have to constantly exhaust law energy to protect themselves. Naturally, they would not be able to bring out their full combat prowess. Xiao Chun entered deep thought. A fierce purple flame started gathering in his right eye. With a thought, the purple thunder true fire surged out his right eye and headed for the Last Breath Lake. A sizzling sound immediately resounded on the surface of the lake. Mist slowly rose up. The clear lake water quickly evaporated. Soon, a huge pit appeared where the purple thunder true fire covered. However, the expected whirlpool did not appear. Silently, the lake water slowly filled up. It was extremely strange. Never mind. We will not be able to find out anything like this. I'll go over and take a look first. You all can come back after there is no danger. Since he did not find anything, Xiao Chan put away the purple flame and prepared to go over personally. Yuan Yin said sullenly, "Let's go down together. At least we can take care of each other. I believe that the gates of hell are on that island." Xiao Chen thought about it and agreed. Given their strength, if they worked together, they would be able to deal with a great Grandmaster-level martial sage. The gates of hell might very well be at the center of the lake. Just at this moment, Xiao Chun casually glanced around and discovered some extremely shallow footprints on the ground. If one did not look carefully, one would not notice them at all. The others noticed Xiao Chen's gaze and quickly looked over. They discovered the existence of footprints as well. Someone had been here before, and it was more than one person. Xiao Chun compared the footprints of this group of people to the footprints of his four companions. The footprints of two of these people were even shallower than those of Xiao Chen's group of four. Sometimes, the things that one accidentally left behind were the most authentic. If one did not do it on purpose, the depth of the footprints could reveal a person's strength and control of their body. From this, one could tell the strength of the owner of the footprints. I said somewhat worriedly, the strength of these people is not simple. Two of them are suspected to be great Grandmaster-level martial sages. I don't know. What are they here for? Could they be here for the gates of hell as well? Yuan Su shook his head and said, that should not be the case. The 9 layers of purgatory abounds in inattributed flames. This group of people should be here to hunt for inattributed flames. There are no treasures on the Yellow Springs Road. Most people would not rush there for no reason. Xiao Chen immediately thought of the group of people from the Medicine God Valley. This was going to be somewhat problematic. He could only hope that the inattributed flames that the other party sought were not on the island in the center of the lake. Let's go. Xiao Chun took the lead and leaped forward. There was a formless pressure in the air, preventing Xiao Chun from flying. He could only walk on the water. Cold chi spread out and immediately froze Xiao Chen's feet. This is really troublesome. Xiao Chun circulated his energy and shattered the ice. Then, he continued forward. Bai and the others followed behind. As Xiao Chun walked on the lake, his law energy was constantly being drained. Otherwise, he would turn into an ice sculpture in a moment. Suddenly, Xiao Chun felt something catch his foot. At first, he thought that it was the cold chi increasing. However, a strong force pulled him down. Only then did he realize that something was wrong. It was actually a skeleton hand. However, Xiao Chun possessed great vital chi. Every move he made contained 3 dragon force. How could he get pulled down? Xiao Chun kicked upward with his right foot. Water splashed everywhere, and Xiao Chun flung out a skeleton ghost that only had a skeleton remaining. Gaga gaga! My skin! My skin! The skeleton opened its mouth and screamed indistinctly. Then, it spun in the air and shot toward Xiao Chun. Kasie! Kasie! Before Xiao Chun could make a move, Bai, who was at the side, drew the snow feather sword in his hand. A few strands of sword chi chopped the skeleton ghost into pieces. Elder brother Xiao Chun, are you all right? Bai asked out of concern. Xiao Chun waved his hand and said, I'm fine. Hey, be careful. The moment the skulls, shattered into pieces, fell into the water, they reformed and charged at Xiao Bai's back. Xiao Chun quickly rushed forward and sent out a beam of light from his fingertip, shattering the skeleton ghost into pieces again. Quick, let's go. These monsters cannot be killed. Right after Xiao Chen spoke, skeleton ghosts continuously appeared from the water, blocking the group's path. They screamed, my skin, my skin, my skin. Their voices made one's hair stand on end. Bang, bang, bang. Xiao Chun led the way. As he faced the pressing cold chi at the bottom of the lake, he had to deal with the skeleton ghosts flying at him from the front. The skeleton ghosts could not be killed. They came endlessly, increasing in number as they killed. After 4 hours, the group had traveled less than 5 kilometers. They were still a long way from the island in the center of the lake. If they ran out of stamina, they would really die before they could reach the small island. The skeleton ghosts were not strong. At best, they were equivalent to peak martial monarchs. However, they cannot be killed. There are many of them. If an inferior grade martial sage came, they would die in one exchange. Kong Yuan's voice trembled somewhat as he said, could it be that the skinning skeletons from the hell of skin flaying were all tossed into this lake? Xiao Chun thought about the densely packed human skins in the Cyan Forest. There were at least 1 million of them. The formless pressure in the sky persisted. Xiao Chan felt like Last Breath Lake was a prison with the sky as the top and the water as the bottom. Before these unkillable ghosts, it felt like any strong martial technique was just a decoration. Yuan Su and the others had executed a heaven-ranked martial technique that covered a large area earlier. However, these ghosts came back to life in the blink of an eye. On the other hand, they had exhausted a significant portion of their law energy. Yuan Su frowned heavily and no longer dared to waste his law energy. Just as the group considered retreating, Xiao Chan suddenly remembered that he still had a reincarnation lamp in his universe ring, which specialized in killing ghosts. "Protect me. I'll chase these ghosts away." The eyes of Bai and the other two lit up. They each guarded a side, quickly surrounding Xiao Chun, not letting the other skeleton ghosts disturb him. The reincarnation lamp appeared in Xiao Chen's palm. Then, he gently tossed it into the air and flicked some essence blood onto the lamp's wick. The flickering lamp flame lit up, and rings of light appeared behind the ancient lamp. As Xiao Chun drove his magic energy, the illusory figure in the light slowly became clearer. The immortal Tao honors life, boundlessly delivering people. Once I recite the scriptures, all the great sages praise me for being benevolent. Twice I recite the scriptures, and withered bones are reborn. Thrice I recite the scriptures, and then I cross the cycle of reincarnation. Immortal Qi surrounded the illusory figure as it opened its mouth and recited the mysterious scriptures. The scriptures contained the power of the cycle ghost saber, the power to deliver all living things from suffering. The thousands of skeleton ghosts on the lake suddenly stopped moving. Then, they shattered with cracking sounds. Clumps of gentle spiritual light soared into the sky. The spiritual lights were all humanoid. Some dressed like scholars, some merchants, some chivalrous. All sorts of appearances showed the world of mortals. Chapter 974. The human skins on the iron trees also began to burn. The entire forest was engulfed in flames. The skinning hell seemed to be disappearing. If the cycle of reincarnation still existed, these spiritual lights would be able to escape the sea of bitterness and be reincarnated. But now that the six paths were broken, these spiritual lights could only fend for themselves. When Bai and the others saw this, they were all shocked. They didn't expect that such a troublesome ghost would disappear just like that. Xiao Qin's magic power was nearly depleted before he managed to convert all the skeletons and ghosts in the entire Last Breath Lake. Xiao Qun stood up and waved, holding the reincarnation lamp in his hand. Then he said, "Let's go. We have probably already alerted those people on the island. We need to move quickly. Do not get into a conflict with them." On the island in the middle of the lake, Mr. Wei of the Medicine God Valley, Gongsun Hualong, and the ghost race physical body great grandmaster Mo Lien looked at the blazing fire in the distance with shocked expressions. Behind the three of them, there was a group of martial artists who were also dumbfounded as they watched all of this. "What's going on? The skins on the cyan tree are all burning. Could it be that someone converted all the ghosts and spirits in the lake of Last Breath?" Mr. Wei nodded and said, "That should be the case. This person either obtained the inheritance of a Buddhist sect martial technique or a secret treasure that is even more powerful than the soul-slaying mirror in my hand." Gongsun Hualong's eyes moved around, and his old face appeared uncertain. He guessed, it should be a secret treasure that targets ghosts and monsters. There are only a few people in this world skilled in Buddhist martial techniques. It is unlikely that they would come to this 9 layers of purgatory. After making up their minds, the three of them laughed in unison. Mr. Wei said, "As the saying goes, it is better to come at the right time than at the right time. With this secret treasure, we will be much more confident in dealing with the golden bone demonic soul." Mr. Wei looked at Gongsun Hualong and Mo Lien beside him and said, "My 2 old friends, which one of you should go?" Before Gongsun Hualong could speak, Mo Lien said, "Haha, leave this person to me. None of you are allowed to snatch him from me." Whoosh! Right after Xiao Chun spoke, he kicked off with one leg, and his body shot out like an arrow. With a leap, he shot several kilometers away, disappearing from the two's sight. Gongsun Hualong and Mr. Wei were not surprised. In the Ghost realm, the Ghost Emperor's faction and the Ghost Empress faction were like fire and water. In recent years, the Ghost Empress's faction relied on the art of refining spirits to become more and more powerful in the Ghost domain, and the friction with the Ghost Emperor's faction had also gone from covert to overt, becoming more and more intense. If the cultivators of the two sects met outside, they would definitely fight to the death. Emolian was a core member of the Ghost Monarch's faction. When he heard that there was a secret treasure that could kill ghosts, he naturally could not wait. Gongsun Hualong said after some thought, "Mr. Wei, you are really willing to part with it. To think that you actually agreed to give the soul-slaying mirror to Emolian as a condition for his help. Secret treasures that target ghosts are extremely precious and rare." Mr. Wei chuckled and said, "It's fine. It's just a replica. It seems like it's worth it. Without Emolian's help, we would not have been able to reach the 8th layer of hell so quickly. Furthermore, we would not have been able to cross the Last Breath Lake so smoothly. What should we do now? Should we wait for Emolian to return and attack together? Or should we attack first? This golden bone demonic soul is not easy to deal with. Let's test it out first. When Emolian arrives, it will be easier to kill it." When Gongsun Hualong heard this, he did not say anything more. He turned his head and looked at a pitch-black mound 5 kilometers away. On that small, pitch-black mound, there was a snow-white flower in full bloom. A flame that looked like liquid ice danced and flickered on the core of the flower. Not far from the mound, a completely golden skeleton held a huge sickle in its hand. As it lay on the ground, it seemed to be in a deep sleep. Only the mouth of the skeleton opened and closed. Occasionally, it spat out clumps of black flames, burning the air clean and forming large patches of black clouds. The black clouds shrouded the mound all year round. Gongsun Hualong's gaze turned grave. He took out a set of blue battle armor and carefully put it on. Then, he drew out a heavy black spear. Gongsun Hualong pushed off the ground and silently flew towards the mound. Mr. Wei held the soul-slaying mirror and followed closely behind. The cultivators of the Medicine God Valley spread out in a semicircle, serving as the flanks. Everyone showed an extremely cautious expression. They no longer dared to be careless. Suddenly, 2 clumps of black flames lit up in the hollow eyes of the golden bone demonic soul. It seemed to startle awake from a deep sleep. Dang! The golden bone demonic soul stood up at lightning speed, and the sickle in its hand sent out a crescent-shaped golden light. Kung Chong! It knocked back Gongsun Hualong's unexpected spear strike. Gongsun Hualong lost in a contest of strength. He flew back 1 kilometer, his right hand, which held the spear, turning slightly numb. Without saying anything, Mr. Wei instantly attacked. The Grandmaster-level martial sages behind him also attacked at the same time. The intense battle instantly reached its climax. However, neither side would be able to take down the other within a short period of time. On the other side, after Xiao Chun and the others were safe, they rushed towards the island. Without the obstruction of the skeleton phantoms, they recovered their usual speed. After 15 minutes, they arrived at the island. However, before they could heave a sigh of relief, their expressions changed. Emolian, who was rushing over, was stunned at first. Then, he said joyfully, "Little friend, it looks like we are really fated. You were the one who caused the earlier commotion, right?" Xiao Chun cursed in his heart. However, he did not get overly flustered. He smiled calmly and said, "We are indeed fated. In just a month, we meet again. As for the earlier commotion, this junior was indeed the one who caused it. This old man is in a good mood today. Hand over this secret treasure that targets spirits and the other half of the Flood Dragon scissors. Then you can leave." Emolian was indeed in a good mood. The commotion caused by that secret treasure was comparable to that of the original soul-slaying mirror. If he could obtain it and offer it to the Dongyue Ghost Emperor, he would definitely be able to attract the Ghost Emperor's attention. Perhaps the Ghost Emperor would personally raise Xiao Chen's cultivation realm to the blue-robed Emperor, which Xiao Chun had no hope of achieving in this lifetime. This had happened before. Given the unfathomable strength of the Dongyue Ghost Emperor, it was definitely possible to raise someone to the blue-robed Emperor realm by paying a certain price. Of course, the prerequisite was whether the treasures were worth the price the Ghost Emperor paid. Xiao Chun smiled faintly and said, "However, while you are in a good mood, I am not. If you disappear from my sight now, I can pretend that I did not see you." Yin could not help guffawing. "White-robed Xiao Chun, I heard of your name from the Medicine God Valleys, Mr. Wei. Hearing about you is not as good as seeing you in person. You really are an extraordinary arrogant person. But in front of me, what right do you have to be arrogant?" Yin smiled. Finally, he radiated killing chi. His voice was bone-chilling, devoid of any emotion. 10 dragon-shaped strands of energy swam behind Yin, stirring up strong winds in the surroundings. A horrifying aura of an impending storm spread out from Yin's body. 10 Dragon Force was only Yin's most basic strength. A casual strike of his could produce 10 Dragon Force, which was 50 million kilograms of force. Today, I will show you the horrifying strength of a martial sage with a physical body. If you can receive my most ordinary punch without retreating, I will not make things difficult for you anymore. But I looked worriedly at Xiao Chun. Then he sent a voice projection. "Elder brother Xiao Chun, don't listen to him. His punch contains 10 Dragon Force. Unless one is a great Grandmaster level martial sage, one cannot receive it." Xiao Chun smiled gently and sent a voice projection. Don't worry. You, Brother Yuan, and Brother Kong, move back a little and watch carefully. Die. When Yin saw Xiao Chun take up a stance and send the other 3 back, he could not help but smile coldly in his heart. Then, he shouted a war cry and charged over at lightning speed. The dragon-shaped strands of energy behind Yin soared into the sky in all directions. Surging dragon might spread out for 5 kilometers around. When Yin punched, it felt like a 50-kilometer mountain range was uprooted and fell from the sky. Yin's aura was vast and boundless. The heavy aura made the air seem solid. Xiao Chun did not panic. After he confirmed that Yin really used only 10 Dragon Force, his lips curled up in a cold smile as well. Then he circulated the myriad heaven divine fist, deities descending. A strand of divine light entered Xiao Chun's body from the distant sky, causing his aura to soar infinitely. However, before it reached its peak, Xiao Chun stopped his aura from rising. Of the 10-fold combat prowess, Xiao Chun only brought out 70%, purposely suppressing the remaining 30%. Dragons roared, and 20 dragon-shaped strands of energy suddenly formed behind Xiao Chun. Surging Dragon might instantly suppress Yin's 10 Dragon Force. Yin's heart pounded wildly as he cursed in his heart. "Damn, 20 Dragon Force. This brat tricked me." His figure flashed as he tried to retreat. However, Yin had rushed over at lightning speed earlier, arriving before Xiao Chun in an instant. Now that he changed his mind, there was no time. Xiao Chun took a step forward and easily caught up to Yin. He punched with his right hand, and 20 dragon roars resounded in the sky, merging together and bursting out. Yin vomited a mouthful of blood, and the vast might behind him shattered. Then he fell heavily to the ground like a sandbag. A natural crack appeared on the ground, continuously expanding. The sky shook and the ground trembled as dragon might spread out. Wounds appeared on Xiao Chun's face. Blood seeped out, making his delicate face look extremely horrifying. Tiny cracks appeared in all the bones in his body as pain spread silently. However, Xiao Chun's eyes remained as calm as clear water. His back was as straight as a pine tree, and his long hair fluttered in the wind. He did not move at all. Looking at the disbelieving Yin on the ground, Xiao Chun said calmly, "As the saying goes, once a word is spoken, it cannot be taken back. As you wish, old mister, you can scram now." Rage flashed in Yin's eyes. He vomited another mouthful of blood and got up in a sorry state. Suppressing the injuries in his body, he smiled coldly and said, Good. I misjudged you. You're also a physical body cultivator. However, you clearly used a secret technique in that punch. This old man doesn't believe that you dare to throw another punch like that. Xiao Chen smiled mockingly. What's wrong? Old mister, are you not going to keep your promise today? Haha, if I kill you, who will know that I went back on my promise? Don't feel unconvinced. I am bullying you today. What can you do to me? You're not the only one who can burst out with 20 Dragon Force. Clearly, Mo Yin no longer dared to underestimate Xiao Chun. He prepared to use a secret technique to double his combat prowess. Even at the risk of injuring his physical body, he wanted to end Xiao Chun. Otherwise, if he allowed Xiao Chun to mature, he would be doomed. Chapter 975. Mo Yin's eyes were sharp. For the time being, Xiao Chun did not dare to use deities descending to bring out 20 Dragon Force. However, from the very start, Xiao Chun did not intend to clash head-on with the other party. He was here to bully. Xiao Chun tapped his forehead, and the will clone that the Haotian Emperor left behind quickly woke up. A heavy aura slowly spread out from its body. Mo Yin's expression changed drastically. He muttered, "This is Emperor's might. You have a will clone of a heavenly emperor." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, "You guessed right. However, old sir, you're not bullying me today. I'm the one bullying you. Don't feel unconvinced. Indeed, you cannot do anything to me." Right after Xiao Chen spoke, his forehead opened, and the Haotian Emperor's will clone shot out. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes, and Emperor's might gathered. Just this aura alone knocked Mo Yin into the air. All of his aura crumbled, and he fled in a sorry state, not daring to linger. Emperor Wu was divided into minor Heavenly Emperor Wu and Greater Heavenly Emperor Wu. Every time the Greater Heavenly Emperor Wu underwent a tribulation, his strength would improve. After clearing 8 tribulations, he would undergo a sovereign tribulation and become a sovereign martial emperor. No matter what cultivation Emperor Wu left behind, the Wu clone could kill the great Grandmaster level martial sage Mo Yin. The Haotian Emperor Ingzong Tian was a greater heavenly emperor who had cleared 8 tribulations. Naturally, the Wu clone that he left behind for Xiao Chun would have an easier time killing Mo Yin. Mo Yin was nearly frightened out of his wits. He lost all the fight. The moment the Emperor's might appeared, he forgot to resist and got knocked into the air. Mo Yin vomited a mouthful of blood and startled awake. His complexion paled. Without saying anything, Mo Yin turned around and fled. Every time he pushed off the ground, countless cracks appeared in the ground, spreading out like a spiderweb. However, it was too late to flee now. The four only saw a flower of blood blossom 5 kilometers away. Without any surprise, the Haotian Emperor's will clone smashed Mo Yin into smithereens with a single palm strike. Yuan Su said with some pity, "Xiao Chun, isn't it not worth using the will clone of the Haotian Emperor on this person?" Putting aside Xiao Chun, Yuan Su, Bai, and the other 2 were all top geniuses of the Fiend race's younger generation. They might not have much chance of winning against a great Grandmaster-level existence alone, but if they joined forces with Xiao Chun, it wasn't as if he didn't have the strength to fight. In fact, his chances of winning weren't low, at least 60%. Xiao Chun's expression remained the same as before. The damage from executing 20 Dragon Force slowly healed. The wounds on his body had already healed completely. All that was left were some fine cracks on his bones that were slowly recovering. However, as long as he did not use 20 Dragon Force again, it would not take long for him to recover. As Xiao Chun looked in the direction that Mo Yin came from, he muttered to himself, "Whether it is worth it or not depends on the person. If I can snatch the inattributed flame that those people are targeting, it will be worth it to me." Earlier, based on the footprints at Last Breath Lake, Xiao Chun guessed that these were the people from the Medicine God Valley hunting for the inattributed flame. However, the Medicine God Valley only had one great Grandmaster-level martial sage. However, the footprints showed 2 people suspected to be great Grandmaster-level martial sages. When Xiao Chun saw Mo Yin, he reacted and confirmed that this was the Medicine God Valley's people. It must be someone from the Medicine God Valley sect. However, Xiao Chan did not know what was going on, but the other party was with Mo Lien. If the Medicine God Valley sent a great Grandmaster level martial sage to hunt for the inattributed flame, it would definitely be of a high grade. Xiao Qian's lunar true flame had not advanced for a long time already. This resulted in the Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram losing its balance, preventing it from bringing out its full might. This had troubled Xiao Qian for a long time. Now, an opportunity was right before him. Naturally, Xiao Qian did not want to cause any more trouble. If Mo Lien escaped, the two great Grandmaster level martial sages would meet up again. If that happened, it would be somewhat problematic to collect the inattributed flame. After hearing Xiao Qian's analysis, the group suddenly understood. So, that was the case. I thought for a while and said, I once saw an adoptive father study that the highest ranked inattributed flame in the 9 layers of purgatory is called the icy snow flame. However, no one has found it yet. It is very likely that this group of people found the icy snow flame. Yuan Su nodded and said, the icy snow flame ranks among the top 10 inattributed flames. It is indeed worth making a move on it. Kong Yuan was an impatient person. He quickly said, what are we waiting for? Let's give chase. Otherwise, if we are too slow, the inattributed flame might be snatched away. Yuan Su smiled and said, you blockhead. If the inattributed flame were that easy to collect, it would have been taken long ago. They are probably waiting for this ghost race, great Grandmaster level martial sage, to rush back to help Xiao Qian's secret treasure. There's no need to rush. The more ferocious the fight between them and the ghost guarding the inattributed flame, the better. We could just sit back and reap the benefits. Xiao Qian smiled. Clearly, he agreed with Yuan Su's point of view. He said, let's go. We should just walk over slowly. If we go too quickly and startle them, it would not be good. The group walked unhurriedly in the direction that Mo Lien came from. After walking for an hour, they finally heard the sounds of intense fighting. Another hour later, the scenery 5 kilometers ahead appeared before his eyes. He quickly landed on the ground and hid himself. They saw a skeleton covered in golden bones in the sky, holding a huge sickle in its hand. This skeleton quickly exchanged moves with an old man wearing battle armor and brandishing a long spear. It was clear that the old man wearing battle armor was at a disadvantage. If not for another person holding an ancient mirror that occasionally shot out a beam of light, the old man would have been at a disadvantage. If not for that person holding an ancient mirror that occasionally shot out a beam of light, this great Grandmaster level martial sage would have fled long ago. Several miserable corpses lay on the ground, all of them split in half. Xiao Qian's gaze immediately landed on the sand dune. When he saw the beautiful icy snow flame, he revealed an expression of joy. It was indeed the icy snow flame, one of the top 10 inattributed flames. If the lunar true flame consumed it, it would definitely be on par with the current purple thunder true fire. The might of the Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram would be even stronger. In the future, when Xiao Qian faced a great Grandmaster level martial sage, he would be able to protect himself. Xiao Qian swept his gaze over the battlefield in the sky. Then, he came up with a countermeasure. He said, later, I will make a move to block that golden bone demonic soul. Bai will help me retrieve the icy snow flame. What about the 2 people in the sky? A bow appeared in Xiao Qian's hand. Then, he took out the final Starbreaker arrow and said softly, they will be dead soon. If you do as I say later, you will be able to retrieve the icy snow flame without suffering any injuries. Xiao Qian drew the bowstring back and circulated 3 Dragon Force. As the bowstring slowly drew back, the entire bow crackled. Xiao Qian could vaguely feel the limits of the Soul Slayer bow. The Soul Slayer bow's might would be as great as its vital chi. However, it was an ordinary item after all. There would always be a limit. However, if Xiao Qian used the Starbreaker arrow with 15,000 tons of force to deal with the Medicine God Valley's Mr. Wei, he would be able to catch him off guard. Seeing that Xiao Qian wanted to deal with these 2 in one go, Bai and the other 2 could not help but hold their breaths and focus. If this arrow really succeeded, the balance in the sky would immediately be broken. Mr. Wei and Gongsun Hualong, who were bitterly enduring in the air, anxiously waited for Mo Lian's arrival. In the intense battle, Gongsun Hualong did his best to push back the golden bone demonic soul. However, he could not help vomiting a mouthful of blood. His face turned pale. Mr. Wei quickly activated the soul-slaying mirror. A bright light shot out, and the golden bone demonic soul burst into flames, inflicting immense pain. Although the flames caused the golden bone demonic soul to give up on chasing, they did not injure it. After the flames subsided, the golden bone demonic soul would charge over again. Mr. Wei, hold on for another 15 minutes. If Mo Lian still does not arrive, this old man will be helpless and will have to retreat. Gongsun Hualong swallowed another Saint Tier healing pill and said anxiously, I'll be fine. Although there was a sage-grade medicinal pill, it was clear that Gongsun Hualong had already consumed it many times. Hence, its effects were much weaker. Sweat appeared on Mr. Wei's forehead. Unexpectedly, the golden bone demonic soul was much more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. After 4 or 5 exchanges, the people that he brought with him all died. Only Mr. Wei and Gongsun Hualong remained. If not for the soul-slaying mirror, they would have died several times already. Hearing Gongsun Hualong's intention to retreat, Mr. Wei quickly said, Don't panic. We have already injured this golden bone demonic soul. Just hold on for a while longer. When Mo Lian arrives, we will succeed. Seeing the flames on the golden bone demonic soul slowly dissipate, Gongsun Hualong snorted coldly and said, You can play by yourself. This old man does not have the life to waste with you. This old man will leave after 15 minutes. Just as Mr. Wei was wondering if he should increase the stakes, his heart suddenly skipped a beat. Then, he turned his head to look. Boom! Before Mr. Wei could clearly see what it was, blood leaked out of a corner of his lips. Then he discovered a bowl-sized hole in his chest. His life force was slowly fading. The inner vest that Mr. Wei had spent a lot of money to buy did not stop the golden bone demonic soul at all. This sudden change startled Gongsun Hualong. He was flabbergasted, and his mind went blank for a moment. By the time Gongsun Hualong recovered his wits, the flames on the golden bone demonic soul had already vanished. It brandished its scythe, and a lightning-fast strike lit up the sky. Gongsun Hualong's expression changed drastically. He quickly blocked, and the spear in his hand broke. A golden light fell, and the battle armor on his chest split in half, falling off in an instant. Feeling the lingering aura of death lingering in his body, Gongsun Hualong felt as though he was nearly cleaved into two. Spurting out a mouthful of blood, he quickly fled. However, just as Gongsun Hualong turned around, he heard 10 heaven dragon roars behind him. A storm was brewing, and the world was about to change. It was like Shao Chan had calculated everything. When the golden bone demonic soul injured Gongsun Hualong, Shao Chan sent out 10 dragon force and mercilessly struck Gongsun Hualong's chest. Kassiye, Kassiye. The sound of internal organs breaking rang out. Gongsun Hualong did not even see who attacked. A bloody hole appeared in his chest, and he crashed to the ground like a cannonball. It is time for us to make a move. Kong Yuan smiled faintly, and the 12 holy peacock feathers on the light wall behind him spread out. Then, together with Yuan Su, they flew towards the severely injured and weakened Gongsun Hualong. As for Bai, he pushed off the ground and landed on the mound beside the icy snow flame. After sending Gongsun Hualong flying with one punch, Shao Chen would have to face the horrifying golden bone demonic soul alone. Even when Gongsun Hualong and Mr. Wei worked together, they could not do anything to this golden bone demonic soul. Chapter 976. Although Shao Chun had the reincarnation lamp, he did not dare to be careless. However, there was good news. Gongsun Hualong and Mr. Wei had managed to injure this golden bone demonic soul. It was no longer in a perfect state. Whoosh! Shao Chen's figure flashed, and he blocked the golden bone demonic soul, which was preparing to charge it by. The cold golden bone demonic soul waved its hand, and the huge scythe turned into a beam of dim light. Fast! This was the only word in Xiao Chen's mind. He instantly moved his entire body, materializing the flawless saber Dao, using his body as a saber and his palm as a blade. Xiao Chen swung his palm horizontally, blocking the other party's scythe in the time it took for a spark to fly. The dense death chi was condensed to the extreme. The force from the scythe instantly shattered the saber intent that Xiao Chen condensed. A strange look flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes as he quickly switched moves. He used his palm as a saber and his shoulder as a blade. Since he lacked strength, he would break it with skill. Xiao Chen placed his palm on the scythe, and his shoulder became like a blade, bright and flawless, radiating a sharp light as he charged at the Golden Bone demonic soul's chest. Bang! Several of the Golden Bone demonic soul's ribs broke, and its body was knocked back 1 kilometer. As expected, the other party's shattered ribs reconnected in the blink of an eye. Compared to such a monster, Xiao Chen felt inferior. Seeing that the other party was about to charge over again, Xiao Chen suppressed the death chi in his body. Then, he narrowed his eyes and sent out the reincarnation lamp. Xiao Chen quickly flicked out some essence blood from his fingertip and lit the lamp wick. The immortal Buddha figure in the illusory light started chanting the expiation scripture. The ancient scripture contained the power to expiate all living things, cleansing the Golden Bone demonic soul's impure soul. The Golden Bone demonic soul's body immediately turned into 2 figures of different colors, one black and one white, clearly distinguishing between good and evil. Then, they started an intense battle. One sought release, and the other sank into oblivion. Xiao Chen's face was slightly pale. This was the first time he had encountered such a ghost that was struggling so fiercely. The expiation scripture recited by the illusionary figure in the reincarnation lamp seemed to be unable to suppress this devil. Xiao Chen's heart sank, and he could not help but increase the speed at which his laws flowed. Purple rings of light slowly appeared behind him. The flickering light of the cycle lamp grew increasingly brighter. He looked down and saw that Bai was waving at him. The icy snow flame was already in his hands. Yuan Su and Kong Yuan also greeted each other. The severely injured and weakened Gong Sun Hualong had already been dealt with. Based on my strength, I won't be able to refine this monster in a short time. Don't worry about it for now. Xiao Chen muttered. His gaze moved to the Golden Bone demonic soul. The battle between the black and white phantoms on the Golden Bone demonic soul's body had already reached its climax. Sometimes, kindness would gain the upper hand, and the skeleton monster would emit thousands of strands of gentle chi. Sometimes, evil thoughts would gain the upper hand. Evil energy would soar into the sky, and baleful energy would surge like the sea. After this happened several times, Xiao Chen found an opportunity. When the kindness took over the Golden Bone demonic soul, he opened his hand and put away the cycle lamp. Then, he turned and flew off. Let's go. Xiao Chen summoned out the 8 ghost palanquin. Bai and the other 2 had been waiting for a long time. Their figures flashed, and Xiao Chen controlled the 8 ghost palanquin to fly to the center of the island. After losing the cycle lamp's power to purify nature, the kindness that appeared on the Golden Bone demonic soul lasted for a while before vanishing, never to appear again. When the Golden Bone demonic soul saw the empty mound, it roared furiously and started a frenzied rampage. 2 figures landed 1 kilometer away. Qing Cheng and the azure-clad old man who had been following Xiao Chen's group silently appeared in the air. When they saw the berserk Golden Bone demonic soul, they were shocked. No wonder young Miss treats this person differently. That secret treasure in his hand landed in the hands of the Ghost Monarchs faction. It would be a disaster for us, the azure-clad old man said, flabbergasted. Qing Cheng frowned and did not say anything. She had just come out of closed-door cultivation after 1 month. The moment she entered the 8th layer of purgatory, she saw the entire forest blazing with flames. In the Last Breath Lake, Xiao Chun had reformed the undying phantoms. It was like a miracle. All the strange things in the Last Breath Lake had been purified. Qing Cheng was astonished. She had somewhat forgotten about the secret treasure in Xiao Chen's hand. Unexpectedly, it could erupt with such horrifying power. The azure-clad old man continued smiling. He used a will clone to kill Mo Lien and offended Xie Zishuan. He has thoroughly offended the Ghost Monarch's faction, giving us a chance to rope him in. Qing Chung nodded slightly and asked, "Did you manage to obtain the soul returning grass?" "Yes. Young Miss is in closed-door cultivation. Leave Jiang Qingzi to me for now." The old man took out a brocade box and opened it, revealing a piece of jade-green soul returning grass. Qing Chung received it and revealed a satisfied expression. She said, "You may withdraw. I intend to enter the Yellow Springs Road alone with them." "Young Miss, no one has been to the Yellow Springs Road for many years already. I do not know what dangers there will be. Let this old man accompany you," the azure-clad old man said worriedly. However, Qing Chung did not care. "We already crossed the Last Breath Lake. What dangers can there be on the Yellow Springs Road? Just don't turn back. I have long wanted to see if the cycle of reincarnation still exists on the other side of the bridge of helplessness." Seeing Qing Chung insist, the azure-clad old man did not say anything more. He took his leave. Inside the 8-ghost palanquin, Bai felt extremely excited. Xiao Chun had killed a great Grandmaster-level martial sage without suffering any injuries. This was something that he would not have dared to imagine normally. Xiao Chen's heart pounded slightly. Things went much more smoothly than expected. The only flaw was that he had to use the Haotian Emperor's will clone. However, Xiao Chan did not feel that it was a pity. When facing a great Grandmaster-level martial sage, the will clone had the strength to kill them. However, it paled in comparison to an expert like the blue-robed emperor. Furthermore, it could only be used once. If Xiao Chun could bring out the Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram further, he would be able to protect himself when facing a great Grandmaster-level martial sage. Although the Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram was not as tyrannical as the will clone, which could explode a great Grandmaster-level martial sage, Xiao Chun could use it an unlimited number of times. Xiao Chun felt that using the will clone for the icy snow flame was completely worth it. Furthermore, he had earned a lot from it. At the very least, the medicinal pills that Mr. Wei had on him benefited them greatly. Elder brother Xiao Chun, the icy snow flame. Xiaobai giggled. On her white, jade-like palm, there was a ball of liquid like ice crystal flame that blossomed beautifully. "Be careful. This flame has a very heavy cold qi. Elder brother Xiao Chun, don't get injured." Xiao Chun smiled faintly. There was an even colder flame in his left eye. His heart skipped a beat. With a thought, the lunar true flame in his left eye spun and formed a whirlpool. Then it sucked in the icy snow flame in Bai's hand. Xiao Chun closed his eyes and removed his shoes and socks. Then he sat cross-legged on the large bed in the palanquin and started to let the lunar true flame slowly swallow up the icy snow flame. Kong Yuan and Yuan Su, who were counting the treasures in Mr. Wei's, Gong Sun Hualong's, and Mo Lien's spatial rings, revealed shock when they saw this. The icy snow flame dares to swallow. So roughly? What kind of flame is that white flame in his left eye? Kong Yuan asked, feeling confused. Yuan Su revealed a grave expression and said, "If I did not see wrong, it is the lunar true flame. Furthermore, it even condensed an origin flame." Lunar true flame. Bai and Kong Yuan were both startled. The lunar true flame and the solar true flame were the two strongest flames in the world. If one could obtain even a clump of these two flames, one would be very lucky. However, Xiao Chun hid so many flames in his left eye and even condensed an origin flame. This was truly unbelievable. Kong Yuan sighed and said, "I have been shocked enough over the past few days. I'm already numb to it. If it were in the past, who told me that I could easily snatch treasures from a great Grandmaster-level martial sage? I would not have believed it, even if you beat me to death. However, it really happened today. I have no choice but to believe it." Yuan Su smiled faintly, not denying anything on his charming face. He could understand Kong Yuan's disappointment. They were both outstanding talents, but the difference between them was too great. However, Bai smiled warmly. He thought to himself, I still have to work harder. The distance between me and Xiao Chen widened again. Half a day later, Xiao Chen opened his eyes. He had finished swallowing the icy snow flame. He wanted to find a place to test its might, to see if he could balance yin and yang and execute the Taiji yin-yang flame diagram again. However, there were more important things to do. He could only put this thought aside, as they had arrived at the gates of hell. After putting away the 8 ghost palanquin, Xiao Chun and the other 3 slowly descended and sized up the gates of hell before them. There was a black gate plate made of 10,000-year-old ancient wood. The plaque in the middle had 3 large scarlet words, Gates of Hell. The strokes were very vigorous. With every stroke, one could feel death chi. A black light screen covered the sect, preventing one from seeing the world behind the gates. Rumor had it that when one stepped through these gates, one would be separated from the living and the dead, walking on the path of no return. There was no one near the gates of hell. There was a strange, suppressive aura that made one uncomfortable. Let's go in. Xiao Chun took the lead, preparing to enter the gates of hell in a flash. A bladesman naturally had nothing to fear. There was no need to think too much, fearing wolves in front and tigers behind. Since they had to enter sooner or later and could not figure it out, they could just walk in openly. However, just as Xiao Chun was about to step in, he frowned and stopped in front of the gates of hell. Feeling suspicious, Bai asked, Elder Brother Xiao Chun, what's wrong? Xiao Chun turned his head back and said calmly, Someone is rushing over. Hee. Young Master Xiao is really courageous. Let me accompany you on the path to the Yellow Springs. A bell-like laughter rang out. Qing Cheng's red dress drifted down. The eyes of the group lit up. Unexpectedly, Qing Cheng appeared again, arriving at the Yellow Springs road that she was unwilling to take. Whoosh! After Qing Cheng landed, she tossed out a brocade box. Xiao Chen caught it and opened it. It was one of the 3 items he was looking for, the soul returning grass. What is the meaning of this? Xiao Chen looked at Qing Cheng suspiciously, not knowing what she was planning. Qing Cheng giggled and said, What's wrong? You don't need it? With your brain, I'm sure you've already guessed that whether it was Mo Lien or Xiezi Xuan, I did it on purpose. You have thoroughly offended the Ghost Monarchs faction. There will definitely be a battle between Ghost Empress, Shi Sun, and the Mountain Monarch in the future. At that time, I believe you should know which side to stand on. Xiao Chen thought for a while and knew what the other party was planning. She was forcing him to choose a side. The expressions of Bai and the other 2 changed slightly. Their gazes at Qing Cheng turned somewhat hostile. Chapter 977. I like interacting with smart people. Miss Qing Cheng, it looks like you understand how I do things. If I can grow strong enough to interfere in the battle between the Ghost Empress and the Mountain Monarch, I will definitely make a trip to the Ghost Domain. Xiao Chun carefully put away the soul returning grass. However, he did not care much. The other party's honesty prevented him from harboring any ill will. Choosing sides was not without its benefits. The Ghost Empress Shi Sun could be considered a peak expert, comparable to the Holy Lord of the 3 Holy Masters' Holy Land. Xiao Chun indeed needed the soul returning grass in his hand. More importantly, he did not regret what he did. Be it repelling Xiezi Xuan or using a clone to kill Mo Lien, it was his own decision. Even if Xiao Chun had to do it again, he would not hesitate to make the decision. A bladesman never hesitated. Seeing Xiao Chun agree, Qing Cheng heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. She recalled the encounter on the 8 ghost palanquin in the underworld land. The encounter on the 8 ghost palanquin in the underworld land gave her a taste of Xiao Chen's temper. One should not threaten the other party at any time. One should use an unexpected method. Perhaps one might even obtain the desired result. Yuan Su said calmly, Since Miss Qing Cheng is here, you can tell me how much you know about the Yellow Springs Road now, right? Qing Cheng glanced at Yuan Su and said with a smile, To you all, the Yellow Springs Road is actually not dangerous. As long as you do not turn back, you will definitely reach the Bridge of Helplessness. Do not turn back on the Yellow Springs Road. This was not the first time Xiao Chun heard Qing Cheng say this. However, why could one not turn back? Don't ask me why. Those who dare to turn back are all dead. Qing Chung shrugged to indicate that she did not understand either. This matter is strange. 10,000 years ago, this saying never appeared. The Yellow Springs Road is a popular experiential training ground in the 9 layers of purgatory. There are always ghost race disciples who come here to hunt soldiers. This saying only slowly spread in modern times. There are too many strange things, so not many people come to the Yellow Springs Road. Xiao Chen remembered this saying. Then, he turned around and stepped into the gates of hell without hesitation. Descending the 9 nether, entering the gates of hell, crossing the Yellow Springs, no matter what danger it was, as long as he could revive Ao Jiao. No matter how big the risk was, it would all be worth it. When the others saw Xiao Chun enter, they pondered for a moment before entering one after another. They were also very curious about the Yellow Springs Road. As far as the eye could see, the scenery had changed. Apart from the red spider lilies blooming at the side of the Yellow Springs Path, the Yellow Springs Path, the Yellow Springs Path, the Yellow Springs Path was filled with red spider lilies. Only black and white existed between heaven and earth. Everything was either black or white, including themselves. They were all assimilated into this world. His body was only black and white. After sensing the condition of his body, Xiao Chun did not find anything wrong with it. It was just that all the colors on his body had disappeared. His strength was still there, and so was the power of the laws. Xiao Chen's heart calmed down. He squatted down and plucked a few red spider lilies from the Yellow Springs Road. The 3 items needed to revive Ao Jiao were the red spider lily, the resurrection grass, and the 3 live stone. Now, only the 3 live stone was left. The stone of 3 lives was at the end of the Yellow Springs Road, beside the bridge of helplessness. One only needed to break it and obtain a small piece. Let's go. Be careful. There are soldiers here. In the past, before the Yellow Springs Road changed, many experts of my race liked to come here to hunt soldiers. After refining them, they could become strong helpers, Qing Chung said carefully as she looked around. Soldiers were the army of the Netherworld Palace. They were previously soldiers who had experienced fierce battles. After they died, they were used by the 10 Yama Kings of the 10 halls. After they died, they were trained to strengthen the rule of the soldiers. They were either used to defend against strong invasions or to expand territory in the Netherworld. They were extremely strong existences. Xiao Chen stood up and carefully put away the red spider lily. The sky was gray, and the ends of his vision were hazy. It was like there was no end to this road. After hearing Qing Cheng's reminder, Xiao Chen constantly circulated his law energy. Rings of purple electric light appeared behind him as he quickly walked forward. Every time Xiao Chen walked for a distance, a headless corpse would fall to the ground, appearing before the group. Xiao Chen flipped the corpse over. The other parts of the body were undamaged. The group exchanged glances, not knowing how this person died. After that, they saw several corpses every once in a while. All of them were headless corpses sprawled on the ground. Their cause of death was unknown. The endless Yellow Springs Road was a world of black and white. Headless corpses kept appearing, adding a strange atmosphere to the Yellow Springs Road. Clang, clang. Suddenly, the sound of metal clashing appeared in front. A group of heavily armored soldiers wielding weapons rode a war chariot and quickly flew over. Soldiers are passing by. Little ghosts, quickly make way. A soldier, standing on the war chariot, shouted loudly. These soldiers had lost their true intelligence long ago. Their memories stopped at the moment when the netherworld shattered and the cycle of reincarnation ceased. Every day, at every moment, these soldiers repeated the same actions, guarding the endless Yellow Springs Road. The reincarnation lamp is useless against these soldiers. Just kill them. There are no generals among them. It is not very problematic, Qing Chung reminded when she saw Xiao Chun raise the reincarnation lamp. With a flip of his hand, Xiao Chun put away the reincarnation lamp. Then he executed the Kuan Peng fist, and a huge Kuan Peng appeared, surrounded by electricity. The force of the punch flipped the war chariot over. The others quickly made their moves. Although this group of soldiers was difficult to deal with, it was as Qing Chung said, There were no truly powerful existences among them. After about 7 minutes, all the Een soldiers on the war chariot died. Before they died, they said, "Een soldiers are passing by. Little ghosts, make way." Xiao Chun, who had stopped attacking, was about to continue on his way. When he heard by calling him, he habitually turned his head back, wanting to ask what was the matter. Halfway through, Xiao Chen's expression changed drastically as he suddenly reacted. This voice was indeed the same as Bai's. However, Bai always addressed Xiao Chun as elder brother Xiao Chun and not Xiao Chun alone. However, it was already too late to turn his head. The instant Xiao Chun turned his head, he saw an extremely horrifying scene. A headless Buddha descended from the sky, giving off a scarlet Buddhist light. When it stretched out its palm, it expanded infinitely. Then, 2 fingers moved to clamp down on Xiao Chen's head. Kasie. The 2 fingers gently clamped down, and Xiao Chen's head was removed. Then, he turned into a headless corpse lying on the ground. This was no different from the corpses Xiao Chun saw earlier. "It's not my head. It's not my head. Who took my head?" The headless Buddha gently placed Xiao Chen's head on its head and tried a few times. The Buddha's belly wriggled and gave off dull demonic sounds as it tossed the head away. The only thing the Buddha did not notice was that before the head landed on the ground, it disintegrated on its own, turning into air and scattering. Bai and the others were horrified. They could not help but turn their heads to see what was happening. "Quickly go. Don't look back." A figure appeared in front. It was the originally dead Xiao Chun. Bai rejoiced and quickly ran over. Xiao Chen's headless corpse on the ground slowly turned into air and scattered as well. Only after Xiao Chun was far away did he stop. The others quickly stopped to ask what was going on. Xiao Chen's heart had not calmed down yet, still thumping endlessly. This was a situation that had not happened in a long time. His mental state was in utter chaos. In that instant earlier, he felt that he could not dodge at all and would die in the next moment. Even if a great Grandmaster-level martial sage or the blue-robed emperor came, they would not be able to dodge that Buddha's palm. At the critical moment, Xiao Chun executed the life bestowal spell and materialized a clone out of the air. Then his true body quickly fled, barely managing to avoid this calamity. If that headless Buddha had continued fighting, Xiao Chun would have died for sure. Fortunately, after fleeing for so long, they did not see that headless Buddha attack again. Perhaps it was because Xiao Chun had not completely turned his head around. "What did you see earlier?" Qing Cheng asked anxiously. Everyone knew that one should not look back on the road to the Yellow Springs. However, human curiosity was always the strongest. Everyone wanted to know what they saw when they turned their heads around. Xiao Chen calmed himself down and said, "I saw a headless Buddha. However, I only saw its side and did not see its exact appearance." Yuan Su was the most knowledgeable of the group. He immediately said, "In hell, only the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva is related to Buddhism. His abilities are incredible, comparable to the Buddha. However, he is not a Buddha, but a Bodhisattva." Due to the long period of time, many people could not distinguish the difference between a Bodhisattva and a Buddha. Yuan Su could not explain in detail. Yuan Su could only give a simple explanation. Buddhas were equivalent to the immortal lords of the immortal epic. Bodhisattvas were Mahayana immortal cultivators who had not undergone their tribulations yet. However, this Kitagarbha Bodhisattva was somewhat special. His abilities were boundless, and his abilities were much stronger than those of ordinary Buddhas. Because the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva made a great vow to not become a Buddha until hell was empty, he did not become a Buddha and only addressed himself as a Bodhisattva. Qing Cheng muttered, "I've heard a little about this Kitagarbha Bodhisattva. However, since he is so powerful, why did someone chop off his head?" The expressions of the others changed slightly as well. According to Qing Cheng, the changes to the Yellow Springs Road happened 10,000 years ago. That was to say, 10,000 years ago, this Bodhisattva, who was even stronger than an immortal lord, was still in hell and had not been beheaded. Based on the timeline, 10,000 years ago was the time when the Qing Emperor was in power, sweeping through the world, unrivaled. If the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva was really beheaded 10,000 years ago, then the one who did it might have been the Qing Emperor. Who could have beheaded the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva, who was even stronger than an immortal lord? Aside from the Qing Emperor, there was no one else who could have done it. However, was the Qing Emperor really that strong? Xiao Qin shook his head and stopped thinking about this. He said, "Let's stand side by side for the rest of the way. No matter what we hear, do not turn back." After Xiao Qin's narrow escape from death, the five no longer dared to doubt his words about not turning back on the Yellow Springs Road. In this black and white world, the Permitha flower, the only one with color beside the Yellow Springs Road, burned like a flame, looking incredibly scarlet. Later on, the five met with several strong Yin soldiers. There were even Yin soldiers that rivaled great grandmaster-level martial sages. The five used their full power and fought with all their might before barely managing to kill the Yin soldiers. The seemingly endless Yellow Springs Road was an excellent land for experiential training. The headless Kitagarbha Bodhisattva behind them constantly tested their mental states. Chapter 978. The endless stream of Yin soldiers tempered everyone's martial techniques in this life and death situation. Only by bringing out their strength to the peak could they persevere. The Yellow Springs Road was not easy to traverse. Even after walking for 3 months, they still could not see the way back. Everyone's strength had improved significantly here. Even Xiao Chun had completed the Summer Saber and Spring Saber in 3 months. Now he could execute the complete flawless 4 seasons. More importantly, with the tempering of the headless Kitagarbha Bodhisattva behind him, Xiao Chen's saber soul successfully advanced to great perfection. For some reason, the headless Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's voice rang out in Xiao Chen's ears most of the time. All sorts of illusory voices turned into different people in Xiao Chen's heart, calling out his name. The voices were either sorrowful, joyful, pained, or desperate. Several times, Xiao Chun nearly turned his head back. However, his unwavering heart as a bladesman allowed him to persevere. The 4 strands of saber soul around the Wheel of Thunder became even brighter, reaching 7 strands. This was the sign of a great perfection saber soul. During the battle with the Yin soldiers, Xiao Chun merged the 2 into 1, forming his own unique lightning saber soul. In the end, when facing the great grandmaster-level Yin soldiers, Xiao Chun would be able to block them by himself. Helplessness, helplessness. After another 5 days, a few cries of helplessness rang out in everyone's ears. Following that, the sound of flowing water filled the air. Xiao Chun and the others revealed joy on their faces as they looked to the front. At the limits of their vision, they finally saw a river blocking their way and the vague silhouette of a bridge. If there were no surprises, that should be the bridge of helplessness. The 3-life stone was beside the bridge of helplessness. After knocking off a piece, they would be able to collect the 3 items needed to revive Ao Jiao. Let's go. The fatigue of the past few days was swept away. Xiao Chun revealed joy on his face as he quickened his pace, quickly moving forward in this black and white world. 4 hours later, the group moved as fast as lightning and arrived before the bridge of helplessness. The headless Kitagarbha Bodhisattva, who had been following them, was no longer there. Black winds blew on the bridge of helplessness, and the water flowed endlessly. Qing Cheng's expression froze as she muttered, "It broke." Indeed, it was broken. Only half of the bridge of helplessness remained, hanging alone above the helplessness river. It was unknown where the other half of the Nirvana cycle had drifted to when hell was shattered. However, whether it was broken or not had nothing to do with Xiao Chun. He was currently hammering on a huge rock beside the bridge. It was the Stone of 3 Lives. Unfortunately, its divinity was gone. If the infernal realm was still around and the 6 paths of reincarnation hadn't been destroyed, then the Stone of 3 Lives could reveal a person's past and future. After successfully knocking down a 3-life stone, Xiao Chun revealed a smile. After spending 4 months in the 9 hells of purgatory, he had finally gathered all 3 items. However, After thinking about it, Xiao Chun felt worried. The Saber School ranking competition had already begun in 4 months. By the time Xiao Chun rushed back, the once-a-decade Saber School ranking would have already ended. If he couldn't get the 10,000-year flame crystal, would Sidu Leihong still call back Ao Jiao for him? Hee, brother Xiao Chun, you don't have to worry anymore. Sister Ao Jiao will be back soon. Bai's face revealed a sincere expression of happiness. The mental tribulation that troubled brother Xiao Chun was finally resolved. If Bai encountered a disaster in the future, Xiao Chen's elder brother would be able to help him. Would he descend to the 9 underworlds, pass through the gates of hell, and walk to the Yellow Springs for his sake? Congratulations! Yuan Su and Kong Yuan also cupped their fists and congratulated him. Xiao Chun did not want to disappoint them, so he did not show the worry in his heart on his face. He said sincerely, "Many thanks to the two of you. If not for your help along the way, this Xiao would not have been able to make it here." Kong Yuan smiled and said, "Brother Xiao is too humble. Even without the two of us, with Brother Xiao's strength, you would have only needed a little more time to make it here." Yuan Su's expression suddenly changed. He pointed in the direction of the Bridge of Helplessness and said, "What is that ghost race girl trying to do? Why is she on the Bridge of Helplessness? She's about to fall off." Xiao Chun looked around and saw Qing Cheng standing on the Bridge of Helplessness with a somewhat dazed expression. If she took another step, she would fall off. Whoosh! The situation was urgent. There was no time to think. Xiao Chun shot forward and landed on the Bridge of Helplessness, pulling Qing Cheng back. Qing Cheng recovered her wits, feeling like she just woke up from a dream. "Sorry, I just wanted to see if the cycle of reincarnation still exists." The immortal Tao no longer existed, and the 6 paths of reincarnation were shattered. Naturally, reincarnation no longer existed. Based on Qing Cheng's appearance, there was clearly something she was hiding. Xiao Chun was not willing to ask about other people's private matters. He said, "Let's go. The Bridge of Helplessness is broken, and we cannot cross this path. We should return." The way back, as long as they followed the source of the water of helplessness, they would be able to walk out of the 8th layer of purgatory. Qing Cheng smiled bitterly. Just as she was about to step off the Bridge of Helplessness, suddenly, countless prayers and praises came from Xiao Chen's body. The black bridge of helplessness under his feet shone with a golden light. It turned into a golden jade bridge of helplessness. Golden diamonds extended from where it broke off. A bridge that led to the other shore automatically extended forward. This sudden scene confused everyone. Even Xiao Chun himself did not know what was going on. The golden jade bridge of helplessness extended all the way to the fog-covered world on the other shore. Yuan Su was stunned for a moment before he reacted. The golden jade bridge of helplessness. According to legend, when a person of great virtue dies and enters the heavenly Tao, the bridge of helplessness will become made of gold and jade. It will shine brightly and sweep away the death chi. I blinked and smiled. Elder brother Xiao Chun is a good person. The golden jade bridge of helplessness. Unfortunately, the cycle of reincarnation is already broken. Otherwise, you would be able to enter the heavenly Tao. The 3 chatted as they walked. Soon, they arrived at the bridge of helplessness. Then, they stood side by side with Xiao Chun. As they looked at the fog-covered world on the other shore, they felt somewhat curious. According to legend, after crossing the bridge of helplessness, one would arrive at the land of reincarnation, the 6 paths of reincarnation. Based on one's good and evil merits, one would be reborn. Qing Cheng said in understanding, "I know why this golden jade bridge of helplessness appeared. In the skin-flaying hell, you purified tens of thousands of skeleton phantoms. Those were all evil spirits that had their skins flayed. They sank in Last Breath Lake for tens of thousands of years. Purifying them was a great merit." Xiao Chun did not care. Yes or no, it was not important. Now that the cycle of reincarnation was broken, no matter how great the merit was, it could not enter the heavenly Tao. Suddenly, Xiao Chun thought of the good and evil beneficence art in the painting where the Qing emperor drew the saber. Then, he revealed a contemplative expression. I want to go over and take a look. I will not give up until I personally see the cycle of reincarnation shatter. Qing Cheng's gaze was resolute. She took a step forward and rushed to the other shore. In the blink of an eye, she disappeared into the fog-covered world. Don't move. I'll go and check on her. Xiao Chun frowned heavily. He waved his hand to stop Bai and the others. Then he took a few large strides down the bridge of helplessness and arrived at the other shore. The fog before Xiao Chun slowly scattered, and a vast black sea appeared before his eyes. There were tens of thousands of aggrieved spirits and withered skeletons in the sea, all doing their best to move forward. These were the evil spirits of the various hells, wanting to escape the sea of bitterness and surpass the cycle of reincarnation. However, they did not know that the cycle of reincarnation was already broken. Even if they went over, it would still be a sea of bitterness. A gigantic headless monk sat cross-legged in the center of the sea. He formed the universal world seal with his left hand and the Amitabha Buddha seal with his right. A boundless might spread out from his body. It was like a tall mountain, like the sea, like the sky, like the earth. Xiao Chun felt horrified. This was the physical body of the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva. The headless specter that he saw on the Yellow Springs Road was the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva's body. The Buddhist light behind the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva should have been golden. However, in this black and white world, it looked very plain. Although the physical body was dead, the magic might still remain. The many withered skeletons in the black sea did their best to swim over, wanting to reach the world behind the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva and surpass the cycle of reincarnation. However, amid the formless magic might, with every step they took, their bodies shrank. The further they went, the more they shrank, becoming as insignificant as a grain of rice. It looked like they were advancing with every step. However, in reality, they were getting further and further away from the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva. They could never swim over. Xiao Chun looked around and found Qing Cheng. She was on a specter ship, doing her best to swim forward. Her body and the specter ship slowly shrank, not even realizing it. What kind of obsession does this girl have? The cycle of reincarnation is already broken. Even if she can cross this boundless black sea, what is the point? Furthermore, with the Kittagarbha Bodhisattva's physical body here, there is no way to cross. Fortunately, she did not go far. If I am careful, I can pull her back. Qing Cheng's specter ship had just left the shore. If she had gone any further, even if Xiao Chun wanted to save her, he would not have been able to. Xiao Chun stretched out his hand and tapped his forehead. He released the will of thunder and had it hover above his head. Unexpectedly, the purple lightning talisman did not turn black and white in this Yellow Springs realm. It remained purple, flickering with a dazzling electric light. When Xiao Chun looked carefully, he saw that the incomprehensible strokes on the talisman gave off some kind of divine light and a faint immortal might. Xiao Chun thought, this definitely has something to do with the powerful divine lightning in misleading Fog Lake. I wonder who the master of that divine lightning talisman is. Xiao Chun only copied that person's talisman, yet did not get assimilated in this black and white world. However, this was a good thing. With the lightning talisman above his head, Xiao Chun leaped out and landed on the Black Sea. Xiao Chun immediately felt a formless might bearing down on him, making it hard for him to move. That headless Kittagarbha Bodhisattva, who was originally only 5 kilometers away, immediately became 10 times farther. Xiao Chun thought to himself, oh no, his body must have shrunk as well. He quickly brought out the will of thunder that contained his great perfection saber soul to its greatest might. His body trembled, and he suddenly grew several times larger. To Xiao Chun, the skeletons paddling on the Black Sea were like ants. In reality, Xiao Chun knew that it was not that his body had grown larger. Instead, it was that the skeletons in the water could not resist the might and pressure. Their bodies had shrunk significantly. Xiao Chun took a step forward with much difficulty. Then he stretched out his hand and grabbed the specter ship, along with Qing Cheng, into his palm. Qing Cheng, who was on the specter ship, still did not understand what was happening. She stood at the bow of the ship in a daze as she sent out several strong martial techniques. However, those martial techniques also became infinitely smaller in Xiao Chen's palm. As long as they were in the Black Sea, they would not be able to fly out of Xiao Chen's palm. Without any time to explain, Xiao Chen turned to leave. However, just at this moment, something strange happened. Chapter 979. The sea of bitterness is boundless. Turn back to the shore before it is too late. Put down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha. This is what the Buddha said. All life has a Buddhist nature. Good and evil, turning back and clinging to it, it is all in a single thought. If one's heart turns to Buddha, one can become a Buddha with one thought. Suddenly, boundless Buddhist chanting rang out in the surroundings of the sea of oblivion, merciful and merciful, calling for all life to turn back and become a Buddha. When the Buddhist chanting entered Xiao Chen's ears, a seed appeared in his heart. All the evil deeds he had done in his life turned into a clinging thought in his mind, inflicting unbearable pain. That seed turned into a benevolent old monk sitting in a lotus flower, materializing a world of bliss. The pure land of ultimate bliss was created. There was joy everywhere, and the light of Buddha shone brightly. There was no pain or torture. This startled Xiao Chen. This was to purify him, turning him into an idiotic follower. If he really listened to this Buddhist chanting and turned back, everything in the past would vanish like smoke. Losing himself would be even more horrifying than death. The purple lightning talisman above Xiao Chen's head quickly entered his sea of consciousness and shattered all the evil thoughts. The planted seed also disappeared. Huangdang. After losing the protection of the will of thunder, Xiao Chen felt the world spin around him. It was like he fell from a tall cliff. When his feet landed firmly on the ground, he discovered that he was standing on Qing Cheng's specter ship. Xiao Chen, why are you here? Qing Cheng, who was at the bow of the ship, asked in shock. Her voice also contained a trace of unexpected joy. Xiao Chen smiled helplessly. Right now, he was probably like Qing Cheng, his body shrunk countless times. At this moment, the Buddhist chanting still lingered. Xiao Chen could not leave even if he brought out the will of thunder again. He could only speak to Qing Cheng and wait for an opportunity to leave. When Qing Cheng heard what Xiao Chen said, she could not help but turn pale. It turned out that everything that happened earlier was just walking on the spot. There was no way to cross this sea of bitterness. Qing Cheng said coldly, "This Kitagarbha Bodhisattva is really capable. He is trapped in this land of reincarnation, blocking the path of hope. He is no different from a bandit trying to take advantage of the situation." Xiao Chen thought about it and agreed. Since hell had been destroyed, the evil spirits in hell would naturally want to reincarnate and become human again. But this guy just had to die and block this place, causing people to be unable to cross this sea of bitterness for the rest of their lives. Then, he took the opportunity to preach about Buddhism, enlighten all living beings, and recruit followers. To put it nicely, he swore not to become a Buddha until hell was empty. "It's fine. I'll bring you out after his Buddhist voice fades away," Xiao Chen said calmly. However, Qing Qing shook her head resolutely. "You should go. I'm not going back. I must personally see the cycle of reincarnation shatter. Otherwise, I will not give up." Xiao Chen's expression flickered as he thought of something. "You want to resurrect someone through reincarnation, don't you? The 6 Daos have already been shattered. Reincarnation no longer exists. This is impossible." Qing Cheng countered with a question. "Did you see it for yourself? Since I haven't seen it with my own eyes, it means that there's still hope. As long as there's a trace of hope, I won't give up." Xiao Chen said calmly, "I only believe in this life, not the next. Even if I see it with my own eyes, I won't believe it." Bang! Suddenly, a resplendent saber light appeared in the sky, illuminating this black and white world with many colors. The instant that saber light froze, it was like time and space were behind it. All the Buddhist chants vanished in an instant. The withered skeleton evil ghost that was struggling in the sea of bitterness suddenly became quiet, no longer screaming. The saber light flashed and instantly entered the headless Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's back. The world turned black and white again. What kind of saber light is this? How is it that even the might of the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva could not block it? It easily pierced through it, Xiao Chen muttered to himself. Although he felt excited, he still could not understand it. Qing Cheng said, "This is the saber light that the Qing Emperor left behind 10,000 years ago." The Qing Emperor was the one who chopped off the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's head. This is hope. If the 6 paths of reincarnation no longer exist, why would the Qing Emperor put in so much effort to fight this Kitagarbha Bodhisattva? Could the saber light from 10,000 years ago illuminate the entire Yellow Springs River? The Buddhist voice had already faded. If Xiao Chun wanted to leave, all he had to do was take out the will of thunder that contained his great perfection saber soul and leave the sea of bitterness. There was no need to struggle here. However, when Xiao Chun saw the stunning saber light that flashed by, he was certain that the Qing Emperor had chopped off the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's head. Xiao Chen's heart wavered. Just because he did not want to think about some things did not mean that he did not want to know the answer. What's wrong? The Buddhist voice has already faded. Are you not going to leave? Qing Cheng asked with a smile. Xiao Chen replied calmly, I'm not leaving. You don't have to leave either. Wait for a while. I'll bring you through this headless bald donkey. Qing Cheng's eyes lit up. She said, You have a way? Just wait. Xiao Chun did not reply. He sat cross-legged at the bow of the warship and cultivated calmly, waiting for that saber light to arrive again. When that saber light arrived earlier, the blue dragon in the universe ring stirred restlessly. Whether it was as he guessed or not, he would be able to find out once more. When Qing Cheng saw the situation, she could only helplessly sit beside Xiao Chun. She took out a green pearl and stared at it in a daze. A strand of soul was fixed in the transparent pearl, maintaining a leaping posture. Although the ghost race had the ability to collect souls after death, they did not have the ability to resurrect people. They could only refine all sorts of combat-type souls. Furthermore, after refining a soul, it would not be the original soul. It would just lose its intelligence and memories. Who is this person? Is she someone you want to resurrect? Xiao Chen suddenly asked as he opened his eyes and looked at Qing Cheng. A nostalgic expression appeared on Qing Cheng's beautiful face. This is my mother. When she died, I was only 6 years old. My master kept her soul after she died. However, he could not bring her back to life. I wanted to come to the Yellow Springs Road for a long time already. However, I could not make up my mind. I kept finding excuses for myself, saying that Last Breath Lake is too dangerous and that I should go when I am stronger. Actually, I know this myself. I'm just afraid of this final hope shattering, not daring to face it. If not for you want to come to the Yellow Springs Road, I do not know when I would be able to take this step. There are some things that I have to see for myself before I can feel at ease. Xiao Chan could hear the sadness in Qing Cheng's voice. She also knew that even if he crossed this sea of bitterness, all that awaited him was a sad ending. However, as she said, there were some things that he had to see for himself before he could feel at ease. 3 life stone, soul returning grass, and Permi-Thaw flower. You collected these to revive the item spirit, right? Qing Cheng asked Xiao Chun, changing the topic. Seeing Xiao Chen's somewhat surprised expression, Qing Cheng smiled and said, Don't find it strange. This secret technique actually originated from my ghost race. Unfortunately, it is useless on living creatures. However, based on your expression, you do not seem to be very happy. Didn't you already collect all 3 items? Unexpectedly, this Qing Cheng was so observant. Xiao Chun answered honestly, I missed the timing. I did not expect that I would have to walk the Yellow Springs Road for 3 months. Xiao Chen's original plan was to collect the 3 items and return within 3 months. That way, he would be able to participate in the Saber School ranking competition and obtain the 10,000-year-old flame crystal, successfully reviving Ao Jiao. After that, it would be the king conferral ceremony in another 2 months. Everything was going according to plan. However, Who could have imagined that just the Yellow Springs Road would take 3 months? Adding on the 1 month before that, the Saber School ranking competition would definitely start. Xiao Chun would definitely not be able to obtain the 10,000-year-old flame crystal. He did not know how to inform Sita Leihong. Qing Chung smiled and said, "In that case, it looks like you are in some trouble. Sita Leihong is a very difficult person to talk to. He does not even give face to a sovereign martial emperor." Xiao Chun did not feel confident. If he had no other choice, he could only ask the sect master to personally make a trip. The sea of bitterness is boundless. Repent, and the shore is at hand. The Buddhist chanting rang out once more. The many skeleton phantoms in the sea of bitterness all struggled and roared in pain. However, Xiao Chun, who was on the Spectre ship, had been waiting for a long time already. As he resisted the torture of the Buddhist chanting, he waited quietly in anticipation. The saber light that illuminated the entire Yellow Springs Road appeared once more, shattering the Buddhist chanting and illuminating this black and white world with many colors again. The blue dragon medallion in the universe ring started trembling intensely again. Without saying anything, Xiao Chun grabbed the blue dragon medallion with a flip of his hand. Whoosh! A strong light shot out. Xiao Chun and Qing Chung closed their eyes at the same time. When they opened their eyes again, they were shocked to discover that the saber light was no longer there. Instead, the blue dragon medallion became dazzling. The blue dragon medallion lit up the surrounding 100 meters with many colors. It was a stark contrast to the black and white world on the sea. Unexpectedly, the Qing Emperor's medallion sucked in that saber light that had existed for 10,000 years. At the same time, Qing Chong was shocked to discover that the skeleton phantoms beside the Spectre ship earlier were now as small as ants. The distance between the two and the headless Kitagarbha Bodhisattva was no longer endless. There were only 5 kilometers left. This would not take much time for the two. "Let's go. I'll bring you over." The Spectre ship carried the two into the air and flew. The 5 kilometers were covered in less than the time it took to brew a pot of tea. When the two got closer, they discovered that blood flowed continuously from the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's head. The sea of bitterness before them was made of the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's blood. When the two saw this, they could not help but feel horrified, their hair standing on end. After flying past the headless Kitagarbha Bodhisattva, the other parties might vanished. Xiao Chun stretched out his hand and grasped the blue dragon medallion above his head. He revealed a smile on his face. No matter what, this unexpected harvest of saber light was indeed a big surprise. In the future, if Xiao Chun met with an opponent he could not defeat, he could use this saber light to defeat the blue-robed emperor. Behind the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva were the 6 paths of reincarnation. There were 6 huge, shattered whirlpools. Each whirlpool represented a cycle of reincarnation. From the right, there were the heavenly Tao, the Azura Tao, the human Tao, the animal Tao, the hungry ghost Tao, and the hell Tao. Xiao Chun heaved a sigh of relief. The 6 paths of reincarnation were shattered beyond recognition. There was no way to reincarnate. The worry in his heart vanished. Just as Xiao Chun was about to say something, he saw Qing Chung walk over to the whirlpool representing the heavenly Tao and toss in the pearl containing her mother's soul. This is... Xiao Chun felt confused. The shattering of the 6 paths of reincarnation did not seem to affect Dao Qing Chung. She smiled and said, "Consider it a thought. According to rumor, after one enters the heavenly Tao, they can be reborn in the immortal world. They can leave their mortal bodies and not suffer the pain of the 6 paths of reincarnation." Chapter 980. Without the cycle of reincarnation, there was nothing much to see here. Xiao Chun accompanied Qing Chung to watch for a while before turning to leave. However, what the two did not know was that the instant Xiao Chun turned around, the shattered human path whirlpool merged back together, forming a complete cycle whirlpool. A treasure light gathered, and a mysterious passageway opened, leading to an unknown place. Xiao Chun sensed something and turned his head back to look. The complete cycle passageway only existed for an instant before it broke apart long ago. He did not see anything. Ching Chung turned her head back as well and asked curiously, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Xiao Chun smiled and thought to himself, "The 6 paths of reincarnation are really broken. There is only this life in the world. There is no next life." The two successfully crossed the sea of bitterness and met up with Bai's group again on the bridge of helplessness. After a simple explanation of what happened, they set off. On the way back, the group followed Ching Cheng's directions and placed the Spectre ship on the bridge of helplessness, heading upstream. Half a day later, the bridge of helplessness was broken. After passing through a patch of fog, the group miraculously appeared in the underworld land, the place that separated yin and yang. Ching Chung smiled and explained, "Don't find it strange." After the hell shattered, several spatial tiers formed. Several of these spatial tears are not too dangerous. Instead, they're shortcuts to the 9 layers of purgatory. However, only our ghost race knows about them. When the group returned to the surface, they all took in deep breaths. They finally made it out of the 9 layers of purgatory alive. Ching Chung returned the cycle banner to Xiao Chun. Then, she smiled and said, "I'll take my leave. There are less than 2 months left to your king conferral ceremony. At that time, if nothing unexpected happens, I will go and join in the excitement." After getting rid of her mental tribulation, Ching Chung felt much more relaxed. After saying goodbye to everyone, she left calmly. There was half a month between the Sword School ranking competition and the Saber School ranking competition. Based on the time, they should still be able to make it if they rush back now. Xiao Chun used the Freedom Wings, and so close yet worlds apart continuously. Finally, he managed to send Bai over before the competition began. However, Xiao Chun was not as lucky. The Saber School ranking competition had already ended 7 days ago. The Saber Sovereign Wu Xiaoyan's first disciple, Wen Xiren, successfully made it into the top 10. News of this had already spread throughout the entire profound domain, spreading his name everywhere. Xiao Chun felt somewhat nervous as he arrived at Sword Forging Peak. He did not know if Sita Leihong would be able to accommodate him or not. Sword Forging Peak was the same as before. Swordsmen seeking Situ Leihong to forge swords lined up from the top of the mountain to the bottom in an orderly fashion. Xiao Chun did not line up. Instead, he headed for the sword forging mountain manor at the top of the mountain amidst everyone's gazes. Its Chun came and came. White-robed Xiao Chun defeated the first disciple of the sword sovereign Lu Xiaoyun in Heavenly Cauldron City 4 months ago. He probably earned a lot at the longevity fruit auction 3 months ago. I remember that a few old quasi-emperors rushed over and pushed the price of a longevity fruit to a sky-high price. Several great Grandmaster-level martial sages did not manage to buy it. However, it is strange. The Saber School ranking is held once every 10 years. Given his strength, he should have a chance to make it into the top 10. Why is he not there? If it were in the past, the name Xiao Chun would have been somewhat distant to the people of the profound domain. However, Xiao Chun had easily defeated the Purple Knight Sword Sex Ouyang Feng at Sword Forging Peak. Then, he held a high-profile auction for the longevity fruit. After that, he defeated the Sword Sovereign's Chun Chen's first disciple in Heavenly Cauldron City. The most famous person in the profound domain was none other than Xiao Chun. Along the way, Xiao Chun listened to the discussions around him without showing any expression. He had something on his mind. He wanted to meet Situ Leihong quickly, but he did not know how to bring it up when he did. Suddenly, Xiao Chun felt 2 pairs of eyes filled with hatred and murderous intent. They did not hide their murderous intent at all as they stared at him. Xiao Chun turned his head and looked in the direction of the gaze. His lips curled up involuntarily, revealing a smile. The owner of this gaze was the person who wanted to teach Xiao Chun a lesson when he first arrived at Sword Forging Peak. In the end, Xiao Chun ended up getting slapped in the face by Ouyang Feng, who got slapped down by his own senior. There was an old man beside Ouyang Feng. This old man also wore the robes of the Purple Knight Sword sect and looked very similar to Ouyang Feng. Based on this appearance, it was not hard to guess that they were father and son. This old man was a great Grandmaster-level martial sage. He He was in high spirits, and a bright light flashed in his eyes. This old man did not look old at all. His eyes were like swords. Everywhere he looked, it was like a sharp sword piercing through space. Xiao Chen took a glance and lost interest. It was best not to provoke this old man. Otherwise, he would not mind using a great Grandmaster-level martial sage to test his strength and see how strong he was. After taking a few steps, Xiao Chun overtook the two of them. "Stop right there." Ouyang Feng whispered a few words into the old man's ear, and that old man's expression turned extremely unsightly. Then, he shouted coldly, stopping Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun could not be bothered with this old man, so he continued walking forward. Whoosh! The purple-robed old man was enraged. He took a big stride forward and arrived in front of Xiao Chun. Then he said, "Little friend, did you not hear what this old man said? This one is telling you to stop." Xiao Chun did not mind. He smiled and said, "My legs are under my feet. What does it have to do with you whether I stop or not? You have a sharp tongue. Let this old man ask you. For months ago, did you use your strength to bully the weak, sow dissension, and injure my son?" The purple-robed old man asked with an overbearing aura. Indeed, they were really father and son. With this, Xiao Chun probably could not enter the mountain manor directly. However, Xiao Chun did not show any fear. He smiled gently and said, "What you said is true. However, did I injure your son? How come I don't remember? I think it was just a gentle touch. At that time, many people could prove it. Your old friend, Diaojin Tao, could prove it as well." At the mention of this matter, the purple-robed old man could not stop the rage in his eyes from spewing out. He spent a lot of effort to calm himself down. If not for the purple-robed old man running around seeking miraculous medicinal pills, Xiao Chun would not be able to recover without at least half a year. To think that the purple-robed old man was not embarrassed to say that it was just a gentle touch. As for that Diaojin Tao, this was the name that the purple-robed old man did not want to hear the most. For the sake of a longevity fruit, Diaojin Tao disregarded their relationship of many years and directly sent Ouyang Fengfan tumbling down the mountain. This was simply an extraordinary humiliation. Good, very good. In that case, this old man will gently touch you as well. After the purple-robed old man said this through clenched teeth, he no longer suppressed his rage. He stepped forward and sent a palm strike at Xiao Chun. The purple-robed old man thought that it would be too degrading for him, a great Grandmaster-level martial sage, to draw his sword to deal with a junior. However, the purple-robed old man relied on his huge advantage in cultivation to send a palm strike over. When the palm strike flew out, the wind howled. At the level of great Grandmaster-level martial sage, a casual palm strike could break mountains. Furthermore, this palm strike was sent out in rage. The surging palm wind combined with the purple-robed old man's mountain-like heavy aura. Before the palm wind arrived, a huge pressure already pressed down. Several of the people behind Xiao Chun could not help but move back. However, Xiao Chun himself did not move at all. When he saw the horrifying aura of the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva, the might of the purple-robed old man's palm strike was like child's play to Xiao Chun. Since the other party was being arrogant and did not even draw his sword, then there was no need for him to draw his sword. Myriad heaven divine fist, deities descending, 20 dragon force. Dragon roars resounded, and 20 huge dragon-shaped strands of energy appeared behind Xiao Chun. They soared up and down, stirring up the sky and making the sky change color. They roared in unison, and dragon might covered the sky, not giving the purple-robed old man any chance to regret. When Xiao Chun faced this palm strike that was as fast as a storm and as mighty as a mountain, he took a step forward and met it head-on. Bang! When the fist and palm met, a horrifying sound rang out. Xiao Chen's punch sent the purple-robed old man flying back. The purple-robed old man's eyes widened in shock. He opened his mouth and vomited a mouthful of blood. After the purple-robed old man landed, he felt incredible pain in his right hand. Cracks spread out on his bones. His entire right arm was temporarily crippled. Xiao Chun stood upright with his hands behind his back. He smiled and said, "I'm sorry, old sir. My body is very brittle and cannot be touched. I am not like your son, who has thick skin." After smiling faintly, Xiao Chun swaggered off. The purple-robed old man trembled in anger. However, he had been too careless this time. His right hand was temporarily crippled, and he could not hold a sword at all. Even if the purple-robed old man wanted to take revenge, he did not have the strength to continue fighting. The other swordsmen lining up on the mountain all showed extremely grave expressions. The purple-robed old man, Ouyang Long, was a bona fide great grandmaster level martial sage. However, even such a great grandmaster level martial sage wanted to bully the weak. Yet, with one punch from Xiao Chun, he did not dare to retaliate. When the purple-robed old man saw the other party swagger off, he did not even dare to give chase. How unfortunate! This Xiao Chun is not participating in the Saber School rankings competition. What a pity. With such strength, he can definitely compete with Wenziren. In the past few years, the momentum of my Sword Dao lineage has been completely suppressed by the Saber Dao lineage. Wenziren already suppressed the profound domain's younger generation swordsmen to the point where they could not even raise their heads. Now, another Xiao Chun appeared. Huh. If only Yin Shi-san were here. With Yin Shi-san's strength and talent, he would definitely be able to compete with those two. Yin Shi-san is obsessed with the Sword Dao. He has never been interested in the Sword School ranking. He is nowhere to be found. Even the Yin clan does not know where he is. The swordsmen present all gave the purple-robed old man some face. Even after Xiao Chun sent him flying with one punch, no one mocked him. Ouyang Feng walked over to the purple-robed old man and grumbled, "Father, what's wrong with you? Why are you speaking so much nonsense? Just go up and chop him down with one strike." "Pa!" Ouyang Long was already upset after losing so much face. When he heard Ouyang Feng's grumbling, he immediately slapped Ouyang Feng. "Shut up." Ouyang Long's expression turned extremely cold. He could not be bothered with Ouyang Feng anymore. He sat down cross-legged and circulated his energy to treat his injuries, quickly recovering from the injuries on his right arm. Ouyang Long was prepared to wait for Xiao Chun to come out. At that time, he would not give Xiao Chun a chance and would directly fight him with his sword. If Ouyang Long could not defeat Xiao Chun today, he could forget about staying in the profound domain in the future. Inside Sword Forging Manor, when Xiao Chun saw Sidu Lei Hong's calm appearance, he did not know what to say. After all, back then, Xiao Chun had said that he would help the other party obtain the 10,000-year-old flame crystal. Now, he was going back on his word. Furthermore, he needed the other party's help. After thinking for a while, Sidu Lei Hong still did not say anything. Xiao Chun could only probe, "Senior, I'm sorry about the 10,000-year-old flame crystal. I came late." Chapter 981. Sidu Lei Hong smiled and said, "It's fine. I knew about it long ago and already made arrangements." "What arrangements?" "Wenziren just agreed to your challenge. He will fight you 7 days from now. The wager is the 10,000-year-old flame crystal," Sidu Lei Hong said unhurriedly. Xiao Chun exclaimed in shock. "Challenge? When was that? How come I don't remember challenging him?" Sidu Lei Hong did not act like a senior at all. He smiled and said, "I help you make the challenge. Why don't you agree? If you don't agree, I can cancel it." Xiao Chun was speechless. He smiled embarrassedly and said, "Senior is really considerate." Well said, well said. There's no need to thank me for this. Just help me get the 10,000-year-old flame crystal," Sidu Lei Hong said casually, waving his hand. To think that Xiao Chun had been on tenterhooks for a long time. However, Sidu Lei Hong had already made arrangements for him. "I will hand the 10,000-year-old flame crystal to Senior 7 days from now. I will leave the lunar shadow saber to Senior." After thinking for a while, Xiao Chun took out the lunar shadow saber, the 3 life stone, the Permitha flower, and the soul-returning grass. Sidu Lei Hong nodded and waved his hand. "Wait for the good news. You don't have to worry about me. Let's go. I will not send you off." Since Sidu Lei Hong sent him off with tea, naturally, Xiao Chun did not intend to remain. Xiao Chun was still thinking about the results of the longevity fruits auction. He did not know how much wealth it had brought him and whether he could use it to buy some secret treasures containing dragon souls. For when Zyron to be able to enter the top 10 of the Saber School ranking, he definitely had the strength to defeat great Grandmaster level martial sages. However, Xiao Chun did not know how strong he was. Xiao Chun needed to ask Qiong about all these things. He had to meet the other party quickly. The moment Xiao Chun left the mountain manor, he did not have time to think. A resplendent sword light shot at him like a meteor tearing through the sky. Xiao Chun narrowed his eyes and quickly materialized the flawless saber Dao. He used his body as a saber and his hand as the edge. With one move, the saber changed hundreds of times. His hair, clothes, shoulders, and arms. There was not a single part that was not a saber. A boundless saber hum resounded throughout the sky. As Xiao Chen's hair fluttered, he thrust his finger forward and clashed with his sword light. Bang! A purple energy burst forth from Xiao Chen's fingertips. A thunderous roar resounded as the 100-meter sword light shattered. The purple-clad old man, Ouyang Long, had been storing up power and waiting for a long time. Yet, Xiao Chun broke it with a finger. Xiao Chen's figure flashed, and he arrived in midair. When he met Ouyang Long's gaze, he felt incomparably furious. He said coldly, "Your skin is extraordinarily thick. A great Grandmaster-level martial sage actually sneak-attacked me." Ouyang Long's right hand had already recovered, and he was holding a 4-foot-long sword that gleamed with a cold light. A boundless sword intent flowed out from the tip of the sword, and the sword wind howled. It came and went without a trace for 5 kilometers, stirring up the clouds in all directions. He said in a cold voice, "Cut the crap. If you cannot get past me today, you can forget about leaving Sword Forging Peak." The swordsmen below looked at each other. They did not expect Ouyang Long to be so angry. This time, Xiao Chun is in trouble. Earlier, Ouyang Long did not use his sword and got injured in his carelessness. Now, he is probably serious. You should not show off too much. If Xiao Chun had taken Ouyang Long's palm strike and let him get back at him, this matter might have passed. Ouyang Long has cultivated for 400 years and is a great Grandmaster-level martial sage of the Sword Dao. If he used his full strength, there would not be any suspense in dealing with a junior. As the discussions rang out, everyone shook their heads. They did not think much of Xiao Chun. When a great Grandmaster-level martial sage truly got angry, the energy that burst out would be a horrifying scene. Ouyang Feng, who was below, was incredibly excited. His father finally used his full strength. This time it would be easy. As long as Xiao Chen's hand was injured, Ouyang Feng would personally step forward and ruthlessly stomp on Xiao Chen's face to wash away his shame. Otherwise, the anger in his heart would never dissipate. Don't blame this old man for bullying the weak today. I'll give you 3 moves. As long as you can receive these 3 moves, this grudge will be written off, Ouyang Long said expressionlessly. Xiao Chen's expression turned extremely sullen. He found it very funny. Written off? Such an overbearing attitude made it seem like he was the one in the wrong. Back then, on Sword Forging Peak, Ouyang Feng had been mocking Xiao Chun, attacking with vicious moves. Xiao Chun had endured many times before he was forced to make a move. Even when he made a move, he did not take Xiao Chen's life. Today, the same scene happened on Sword Forging Peak. Xiao Chun was careless and got injured, unable to even hold his sword. As long as Xiao Chun took another step forward, he would have been able to defeat Xiao Chun in a sorry state. However, Xiao Chun did not do so. In the end, not only did Xiao Chun not appreciate his kindness, but after he recovered, he disregarded his status and sneak-attacked Xiao Chun. Furthermore, he pretended to be righteous, saying that he would settle this grudge in 3 moves. How laughable! How extremely laughable! A white-robed figure flew sharply in the air. As his long hair fluttered, it revealed a delicate face with a Neptune headscarf. His facial features were distinct and hid a hidden sharpness. Whoosh! Xiao Chun removed the blue headscarf from his forehead, and his aura suddenly changed. Xiao Chen's originally delicate and reserved face immediately turned sharp. The state of kingship was incredibly tyrannical. A smile appeared on Xiao Chen's face. He said, "What a good settling this grudge in 3 moves. Ouyang Long, you really think highly of yourself. What do you have to settle this grudge with me in 3 moves? Today, I will defeat you in 3 moves. It is fine if this grudge is not settled." Right after Xiao Chen spoke, his will of thunder, which contained his great perfection saber soul, surged out with boundless might. A light flashed on Xiao Chen's forehead, and a purple lightning talisman hovered above his head. Immediately, thunderclouds churned in the sky for 5 kilometers around. As they moved up and down, lightning flashed and thunder roared. There was a boundless sharpness in these berserk thunderclouds. It was like the thunderclouds for 5 kilometers around were an inextinguishable treasure saber. In an instant, it suppressed Ouyang Long, who unleashed his aura without holding anything back and stirred up the winds and clouds. Great perfection saber soul. The people below felt the swords in their hands tremble, about to fall out of their hands. They prostrated themselves on the ground, their expressions filled with extreme shock. It really is a great perfection saber soul. A small perfection saber soul is already sufficient to fight a great perfection sword soul. A great perfection saber soul can completely suppress Ouyang Long's small perfection sword soul. With this, he can make up for the difference in cultivation. Flawless night, perfect and flawless moon. Xiao Chen swiped his fingertip, and resplendent moonlight suddenly bloomed. The sky immediately turned dark. Back then, when Xiao Chen used his full power, this flawless bright moon had blocked Diwuk's split-second initial knowledge. Now that Xiao Chen's strength had improved significantly, and more importantly, his saber soul had reached great perfection, the might of this flawless bright moon had increased significantly. The moon on Xiao Chen's fingertip shone with a dazzling light and an overwhelming might. The light made it difficult for Ouyang Long to open his eyes. Ouyang Long's expression had long since changed. When he saw this full moon, he brandished his sword. 900 purple night sword formations appeared in the air around him. As they spun, they formed a large purple night sword formation. Boom! The bright moon on Xiao Chen's fingertip turned into a saber light and crashed into this large sword formation. Whoosh! 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 The sword formation lasted for a moment before crumbling in the air. Strands of sword light scattered in all directions, blasting the surrounding mountains for 50 kilometers into pieces. Only the sword chi that landed on Sword Forging Peak was easily erased by a mysterious energy. Spring, summer, autumn wind, winter snow. Flawless 4 seasons, growing and multiplying endlessly. After Xiao Chen's flawless bright moon broke Ouyang Long's purple night sword formation, he stood on a lightning dragon. With a flash of electric light, he charged over to Ouyang Long, who had retreated 1 kilometer. Red peach blossoms filled the sky. Peach blossoms bloomed, filling the air with a fragrance. There was no spring wind or saber light. The blazing sun was like the high noon sun, burning everything in the world. Its light was like a saber, and the blazing sun was like a sharp blade. The merciless autumn wind swept through the world, leaving nothing alive. Winter snow drifted in the air. No color could be seen for 50 kilometers around. The world was one color, and no saber light could be seen. Endless cycles, growing and multiplying endlessly. This was the first time Xiao Chen completely executed the repaired flawless 4 seasons. The various mysterious phenomena of flawless 4 seasons cycled continuously. Spring saber, summer saber, autumn saber, and winter saber. For sabers chopped down, cycling endlessly. In the sky, Xiao Chen forced Ouyang Long back 50 kilometers. As Xiao Chen approached, thunderclouds spread for 5 kilometers around. The thunderclouds stretched endlessly, surging with shocking thunder. Flawless blue dragon, subduing dragon profound slash. 18 azure saber lights filled the sky and the ground, containing the subduing dragon profound slash. As they flickered, they struck Ouyang Long at nearly the same time. Pu Ci. Ouyang Long vomited a mouthful of blood. This saber strike knocked him back again, landing on sword forging peak with a loud bang. The surroundings fell silent. When Xiao Chun said that he would defeat Ouyang Long in 3 moves, he did so in a clean and efficient manner, not dragging his feet at all. Ouyang Feng looked at Ouyang Long, who fell back to the ground. His eyes were filled with shock, and he gaped speechlessly. The scene that Ouyang Feng imagined did not happen. His father did not beat Xiao Chun to the point where he could not retaliate. Instead, his father was defeated in 3 moves. "Father, how are you?" Ouyang Feng asked worriedly as he picked up Ouyang Long whoosh. A strong wind scattered, and Xiao Chun landed calmly, without any expression on his face. The many swordsmen who were watching immediately opened up a path. "I'll kill you, you bastard." When Ouyang Feng saw Xiao Chun land, his eyes immediately turned bloodshot. He charged at Xiao Chun without care for anything else. His entire body was full of openings, and he did not have any technique at all. Xiao Chun's figure flashed, and his clothes fluttered. As his hair fluttered, one could hear the metallic clanging of sabers as he easily dodged Ouyang Feng. After that, Xiao Chun grabbed Ouyang Feng, who had brushed past him, and pulled him back, tossing him forcefully. The mountain peak trembled, and Ouyang Feng landed heavily on the ground. Then, he vomited a large mouthful of blood, and his complexion instantly paled. When Ouyang Feng thought about the strength that Xiao Chun had just displayed, he calmed down. Now he was so frightened that his body trembled. "Xiao Chun, I admit defeat. I swear that from today onwards, I will never seek trouble for you again." As Ouyang Long watched Xiao Chun walk over, he felt fear in his heart for some reason. Then, he pulled down his old face and begged for mercy. Xiao Chun's expression did not change as he stopped walking. His expression was unfathomable. Ouyang Long clenched his teeth and took off the spatial ring in his hand. He said, "These are the resources that I always carry with me. There are 3 million black astral coins and 5,000 kilograms of various divine materials in there. I only beg you to let us father and son off today. I guarantee that I will not seek trouble for you again." Chapter 982. Xiao Chun stretched out his hand and grabbed the spatial ring. Then, his figure flashed, and he quickly left this place. These 2 father and son were not benevolent people. Although they said that, they definitely would not do it. Xiao Chun wanted to kill the 2. However, he did not want to see blood on this sword-forging peak. After all, whether Ao Jiao could be revived depended on Sita Leihong. Secondly, the 2 had the Purple Night Sword sect, one of the 9 ranks of the great families, behind them. Although the Purple Night Sword sect's strength and accumulations were not comparable to the peak of the 9 ranks of the great families like the Hao Ian sect, they were in the profound domain. However, in the profound domain, offending the Purple Night Sword sect in the other party's main camp would be problematic. After a few flashes, Xiao Chun stood on a lightning dragon and vanished from the many swordsmen of Sword Forging Peak. If you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Seeing the Ouyang father and son on the ground in sorry states, the other swordsmen all sighed softly. They were also swordsmen, but when they saw Ouyang Long defeated by a bladesman like Xiao Chun, they all felt some resentment. To some extent, these people all held grudges against Xiao Chun. If it were a regular battle, they might have made a move to help, even blocking that bladesman. However, after seeing Xiao Chun's strength and sighing at the speed of his growth, these people felt apprehensive and could only watch as Xiao Chun left. Furthermore, the 2 had brought this upon themselves for being in such a sorry state. As the saying went, the evils brought upon themselves are the hardest to bear. They would not gain much sympathy. After flying for 250 kilometers in one breath, Xiao Chun casually stopped on the top of a tree. Then, he closed his eyes and replayed the earlier battle in his mind. The earlier 3 moves could all be considered martial techniques surpassing heaven-ranked. With the support of his great perfection saber soul, their might had more than doubled. These were Xiao Chun's 3 strongest killing moves. In today's battle, he mainly relied on his great perfection saber soul. If not for his great perfection saber soul, Flawless Bright Moon would not have burst forth with such strong might, suppressing Ouyang Long's aura in one go. If Ouyang Long had comprehended a great perfection sword soul as well, this battle would have been even more difficult. After defeating his opponent in 3 moves, Xiao Chun maintained a calm mind, gaining a clear understanding of his own strength. After a while, Xiao Chun opened his eyes, and an expression of comprehension appeared in them. He pushed off the ground and left in satisfaction. 2 days later, Ying Qiong, who had received Xiao Chun's message, met at the largest inn in Heavenly Cauldron, Xiao Chun. Jean de Bayo and Old Jiu also went with them. The two of them had good expressions on their faces. Clearly, they were very satisfied with the way they handled the black goods. Chen's face and said he, Dragon said. Chun said he of the two. Lord had he, and said. Xiao Chun had, and Xiao had. Fatty Jean said enviously. Comparing oneself to others is really infuriating. This fat lord spent a lot of effort to sell those goods for 5 million black astral coins. You did not even do anything, and you managed to get 30 million black astral coins. However, Xiao Chun did not feel too surprised. This fat lord had spent a lot of effort to sell those goods for 5 million black astral coins. You did not even do anything, and you automatically obtained 30 million black astral coins. However, Xiao Chun did not feel too surprised. He had heard those swordsmen talk about it at Sword Forging Peak. A few old blue-robed emperors who were nearing the end of their lifespans had come to the auction of the longevity fruit. Naturally, the blue-robed emperor was wealthy. After his people died, he would gain nothing. For the sake of his lifespan, he was willing to spend money. Xiao Chun drank a cup of wine and said, I'll give you another longevity fruit. I do not have any requirements. Help me spend all 30 million black astral coins in 3 days. Kim Tae-ho and Lord Jiu gaped. What do you want me to do? 30 million black astral coins? I need to spend it all in 3 days. Ying Qiong felt confused as well. Doubt filled her pretty face. Help me collect secret treasures containing dragon souls. They have to be at least sage grade. If there are king grade ones, don't let them go, no matter how much money you have. Ying Qiong frowned slightly and said with some difficulty, secret treasures containing dragon souls are not easy to find. I'm afraid it will not be easy to spend these 30 million black astral coins. Xiao Chun nodded and said, I know. Incomplete secret treasures will do as well. Ying Qiong smiled and said, Incomplete secret treasures will do as well? In that case, this will be easy. The Flourishing Heaven Pavilion has stores all over the Kunlun realm. Every year, there will be piles of incomplete secret treasures. After chatting for a while, the topic shifted to the duel between Xiao Chun and Wen Xiren. In merely 2 days, the news of Xiao Chun's duel with Wen Xiren spread throughout the entire Profound Domain. If there was anyone in the Profound Domain who could rival Xiao Chun in fame, it would naturally be Wen Xiren. The Saber School ranking was established once every 10 years. It had been passed down for tens of thousands of years since the ancient era. However, in the past 1,000 years, no one from the younger generation managed to make it into the top 10. When Xiren managed to make it into the top 10 despite a group of great Grandmaster-level martial sages participating, obtaining the 6th rank. Once this news spread, it caused an uproar. Speaking of which, why did you think of challenging Wen Xiren? Given your character, you would not be so ostentatious, right? Ying Qiong asked with a smile. Clearly, he had guessed that there was more to it than meets the eye. Kim Tae-ho looked around and chuckled. Brother Xiao, how confident are you of winning? This fat lord will go and start the bet. If I don't take advantage of this opportunity to make some money, it would be too unfortunate. Xiao Chun entered deep thought. Then, he said, I do not know much about Wen Xiren, so I can't say for sure. However, I have to win this match. Suddenly, footsteps came from downstairs. A group of guards escorted the Heavenly Cauldron City's young city lord to the top floor. When the young city lord saw Xiao Chun, he smiled faintly and tossed a heavy wooden box to the young city lord. Xiao Chun stretched out his hand and caught it. After he opened it, an overwhelming heat wave spewed out, and flames assaulted him. If not for Xiao Chun's strength being far greater than before, he would definitely be injured if he opened this box. Xiao Chun had always been extremely calm. However, when he saw this item, he could not help feeling excited. He quickly closed the box, and his expression changed somewhat. Brother Xiao, there is no need to overthink. Senior brother told me to deliver this. 5 days from now, he will have a fair fight with you in Heavenly Saber City. It will be a simple fight, and he does not want you to be disturbed by anything. The item in the box was none other than the 10,000-year-old flame crystal that Xiao Qin dreamed of. When Xiren's breadth of mind surpassed Xiao Qin's expectations, Xiao Qin's favorable impression of this bladesman, whom he had never met before, immediately improved significantly. With the 10,000-year-old flame crystal in hand, Xiao Qin no longer felt any burden. Late at night, in the guest room, Xiao Qin looked at the wooden box containing the 10,000-year-old flame crystal and entered deep thought. There were still 5 more days before the fight with Ziren. Now that he had obtained the 10,000-year-old flame crystal, this fight would be much simpler. However, this was a fight between bladesmen. There was no need for Xiao Chun to think about the consequences of losing. Without any burden, he could just fight to his heart's content. Xiao Chun did not know what kind of person Ziren was. However, at the very least, this breadth of mind greatly increased Xiao Qin's interest in this fight. After putting away the wooden box, Xiao Qin silently flew out of the window and arrived at a desolate place outside the city. If Xiao Chun wanted to test his moves, he naturally had to find a large, quiet place with no one around. An inn was definitely not an option. Xiao Chun could only go outside the city. He would return 3 days later and meet with Ying Qiao. The night was cold and desolate. Occasionally, a cold wind blew in the forest, rustling the leaves. There were still 3 more moves of the myriad heaven divine fist: eternal myth, dusk of deities, and burial of deities. Xiao Chun had never truly executed these 3 moves before. Even among the deity race, those who could practice these 3 moves were few and far between. Without reaching a certain age in cultivation realm, or with extraordinary comprehension ability, one would not be able to do so. The final 3 moves of the myriad heaven divine fist were also known as forbidden moves among the deity race. They possessed extremely horrifying might. They would not be any weaker than the divine sovereign secret techniques that every divine sovereign left behind. Xiao Chun closed his eyes and allowed the magic energy in his sea of consciousness to start surging bit by bit. As he circulated the myriad heaven divine fist, motes of golden light shot out from Xiao Chen's body, illuminating the forest. The golden light gathered, and a deity statue suddenly appeared behind Xiao Chun. This deity statue looked no different from Xiao Chun. However, it looked solemn and dignified, exuding might without being angry. Eternal myth. This was Xiao Chen's own myth. The myriad heaven divine fist saying of the ancient deity sovereigns of the deity race. Xiao Chun was not a member of the deity race and did not believe in gods. If one's heart was not sincere enough, logically speaking, one would not be able to practice the myriad heaven divine fist. However, Xiao Chun blazed a different path, creating his own myth and being loyal only to himself. He did not believe in gods and only believed in himself. Who was the myth? He was the myth. Xiao Chun continuously poured such thoughts into his heart like he was hypnotizing himself. The magic energy in his sea of consciousness drained like spring water. As the magic energy drained, the deity statue behind Xiao Chun grew increasingly denser. Its figure became more realistic, and divine might gathered in its eyes. Bang! With a boom, the deity statue behind Xiao Chun grew incredibly huge. It was now 100 meters tall, like a small mountain. Finally, a trace of divine might gathered. Not a single tree remained in the forest. Under the sweep of the divine might, it turned into nothing in less than 1 breath. Xiao Chen's expression turned solemn. His face looked like it was carved, dignified, and holy. Praises came from the air. With a thought, Xiao Chun raised his hand and slapped the air in front of him. The deity statue behind Xiao Chun stretched out its hand and slapped the air in front of it. A huge hand that covered the sky formed. This palm covered a distance of 25 kilometers. The golden light that shot out in all directions immediately illuminated the entire night sky. This palm strike seemed to make the distant sky sink by half a meter. The flat ground caved in deeply. Xiao Chun silently circulated his energy and withdrew this move. The deity's statue slowly faded away. Then, Xiao Chun closed his eyes and entered deep thought. Just relying on Xiao Chun's magic energy to condense divine might was insufficient. If Xiao Chun could be like those deities of the deity race, forging deity statues in the deity domain and the lower realms, he could build temples for the people to worship and provide the power of faith. In that case, the might of this eternal myth could double. Following that, Xiao Chun started to materialize Dusk of Deities. This move was even more mighty, and the state it contained was even vaster and vaster. Cultivators of the deity race without strong mental energy would not be able to practice it. Normally, only those who reached the level of the blue-robed emperor were qualified to practice these two moves. Of course, this was just the qualification. Whether one could successfully practice, it still required extremely high comprehension ability and a strong physical body. There was a huge difference between Dusk of Deities and Eternal Myth. Dusk of Deities did not need to condense divine might. The state that Xiao Chun needed to materialize was that of the destruction of the ancient divine kingdom, the arrival of the end of the world, the end of the myth, the fall of the gods, and the fall of prosperity. Chapter 983. From a certain point of view, this was closely related to D. Wuck's split-second initial awareness. Split-second initial awareness represented the beginning of glory. That first brilliant light illuminated the darkness. The dusk of gods represented the decline of glory, the end of a legend. In that instant, the blood-stained setting sun was the final, sorrowful light of dusk before darkness descended. Xiao Chun was not in a rush to test it out. He sat cross-legged on the ground. First, the scene of D. Wuck executing split-second initial awareness appeared in his mind. Following that, the scene of D. Wuck summoning the divine kingdom image appeared. Then, the scene of the 12 keepers working together to summon the divine kingdom image appeared. All sorts of scenes appeared in his mind. If there were any missing parts, Xiao Chun would fill in the gaps. After sitting there for 6 hours, Xiao Chun opened his eyes. A bright light flashed in his eyes. Without getting up, he stretched out his hand and pointed forward. Late at night, the pitch-black night immediately turned into a blood-stained canvas. A dispirited setting sun hung in the distant sky. Strands of beautiful, blood-red, fiery light fell to the ground like a meteor shower. Every meteor was a fallen deity. Mournful music rang out in the gloomy sky, filling the entire world with a solemn and stirring atmosphere. Bang! A strand of scarlet light shot out of Xiao Chun's fingertip and instantly tore through 5 kilometers. It looked like a waterfall in the sky, lingering for a long time. With a casual wave of his hand, all sorts of mysterious phenomena vanished. Night fell once more. The setting sun was gone, and the scarlet light no longer appeared. Only the scarlet waterfall that Xiao Chun executed in the sky did not scatter. Its might still lingered, and an apocalyptic aura spread out. Everywhere the waterfall passed, all the birds and beasts within 5 kilometers fled in panic. Xiao Chun slowly stood up and patted the dust off his body. Then, he muttered, "This is still not enough. If I can see a deity of the deity domain fall with my own eyes, I can better materialize this solemn state. Or, I can find one of the 7 thrones, the despair throne, to strengthen the power of this move." In the blink of an eye, the corners of Xiao Chun's mouth curled up slightly. He smiled and said, "Having flaws means that there is room for improvement. Right now, the power of this move is basically sufficient." The myriad Heaven Divine Fist had one last move left, the Burial of Deities. Compared to dusk and finality, it was an even colder and more profound state. It was the final sentence of a glorious legend. However, Xiao Chun did not dare to test this move rashly. He faintly felt that there was something deeper to this move. At this moment, the myriad heaven-divine fist that Xiao Chun comprehended had already broken away from the introduction on the surface. He had a more complete understanding of it. Many things and details that the God Clan's experts couldn't see, he had completed them and even added some of his own things. By relying on the large amount of divine liquid essence absorbed from the heavenly dew divine spring, Xiao Qin's originally strong comprehension ability had already reached an unimaginable level. For 3 days, Xiao Qin stayed here, repeatedly practicing these two moves. Although Xiao Chun did not make any major breakthroughs, he became much more familiar with executing the moves. At the very least, he could execute them with a thought. With some control, he could control the timing of his attacks, drawing them back and forth as he pleased. When the appointed time with Ying Xiong arrived, Xiao Chun unfurled the freedom wings and executed the magic skill, so close yet worlds apart a few times. Then, he rushed back to the city in the time it took to brew a pot of tea. Inside the inn, Xiao Chun sat down and drank his tea leisurely, quietly waiting for Ying Xiong to arrive. Xiao Chun felt very confident in Ying Xiong's ability to handle matters. Since the other party said that he could obtain a large number of secret treasures containing dragon souls, he would definitely be able to obtain them. Young master, someone sent a letter to this inn 3 days ago. When the waiter saw Xiao Chun arrive, he immediately came over happily. A letter? Who sent it? Xiao Chun put down his teacup and tossed a black astral coin to the waiter. Then, he took out the letter and did not rush to read its contents. Instead, he looked at the signature. Senior sister, from Shui Lingling, Xiao Chun read softly. Then, he opened the letter and read it carefully. After a while, Xiao Chun put down the letter. His expression appeared somewhat unsightly. Xiao Chun picked up the teacup and took a sip. A bitter taste lingered on his tongue. Young master, Xiao rarely shows such an expression. Did something happen? Ying Xiong arrived with a smile on her face. Without saying anything, Xiao Chun pushed the letter back to the other party. After Ying Xiong read it, her originally smiling face turned extremely angry. How can they do this? This is too much. Shui Lingling's letter was announced to the world in Bushin Palace. 2 months later, Xiao Hoju would hold his king conferral ceremony in White Emperor City. He would be conferred the White Tiger King, but he did not mention Xiao Chun at all. Ying Xiong could not help feeling angry. This was originally Xiao Chen's king conferral ceremony, but the 3 holy masters' ceremony dragged on for half a year. By the time Xiao Hoju was conferred king, Xiao Chun had only become a foil. At the end of the letter, Shui Lingling expressed some worry. The 3 holy masters' place seemed to have connections with the 3 sovereign noble clans of the human race, the Jiang clan, the Yin clan, and the Lin clan. They would make a move against Xiao Chun during the final period, preventing him from appearing at the king conferral ceremony. I'll send someone to escort you back. Ying Xiong also expressed his worry. If Xiao Chun missed the king conferral ceremony, it would be equivalent to him giving up. It would be very difficult for him to be conferred the title of Blue Dragon King in the future. Xiao Chun waved his hand and said, "There's no need. Give me the secret treasures containing the dragon soul first." The Haotian emperor had said that within 3 years, the blue-robed emperor would not make a move against Xiao Chun. This was the rule between major characters. This was a promise that Ying Zongzong had made to Xiao Chun from behind. It held great weight. Without this promise, without Ying Zongtian, who had expressed his stance long ago, Xiao Chen's path would be even more difficult than it was now. Since the blue-robed emperor could not make a move, Xiao Chun had nothing to fear. If he could not get past this hurdle, he would not have the face to participate in the king conferral ceremony. Ying Xiong gave Xiao Chun a somewhat reproachful look. Then, he followed Xiao Chen's instructions and took out the secret treasures containing the dragon soul one by one. Aside from a few complete sage-grade secret treasures, all the king-grade secret treasures were fragments. Not a single one was complete. Most of the secret treasures were damaged beyond recognition, far inferior to the half of the flood dragon scissors that Xiao Chun obtained. Seeing Xiao Chun carefully look through every secret treasure containing the dragon soul, Ing Qiong asked somewhat nervously. How is it? Are these enough? In Ing Qiong's eyes, these secret treasures were basically a pile of trash. At most, the materials had some value. In the eyes of others, they were not worth mentioning. Aside from specialized blacksmiths, no cultivator would buy these things. Xiao Chen raised his head and said, "Not bad. Many thanks. There should be more than this, right?" Upon hearing Xiao Chen's words, Ing Qiong's somewhat worried expression vanished. He smiled and said, "There is still some left, but not much. You have not finished spinning your 30 million black astral coins. In that case, it should not be a problem to increase his strength by 2 dragon force. After all, the materials of these secret treasures could not compare to the flood dragon scissors, which was once an immortal equipment. The dragon soul was also not as strong as the flood dragon spirit. Xiao Chun had not finished spinning his 30 million black astral coins. As Xiao Chun had expected, secret treasures containing dragon souls were not easy to find, even if they were fragments. 3 days was indeed rather short. It was already very impressive that Ing Qiong could help Xiao Chun to this extent. If Xiao Chun had to search for them himself, he would not even be able to find half of them in 3 days. Ing Qiong stretched out his hand and tossed over a spatial ring. "I don't want your 30 million black astral coins. Most of these are discarded items piled up in the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion's warehouse. There is basically no use for them." Xiao Chun received the spatial ring. However, he did not show much joy on his face. Even the Flourishing Heaven Pavilion could only obtain a few fragments of secret treasures containing dragon souls. In that case, if Xiao Chun wanted to gather 10 dragon force and cultivate the blue dragon body nourishing art, where should he go to find these secret treasures containing dragon souls? Ing Qiong seemed to have noticed Xiao Chen's doubts. He said, "As the saying goes, dragons hide in the depths. Dragons hide in the depths of the 9 abysses. There are more secret treasures containing dragon souls in the heavenly starry ocean." The heavenly starry ocean was a vast and boundless place filled with islands, sects, and countless experts. To many of the cultivators of the Kunlun realm, it was a mysterious place. "It looks like I really have to make a trip to the heavenly starry ocean in the future," Xiao Chun thought to himself. The saying "dragons hide in the depths" is not wrong. After bidding farewell to Ing Qiong, Xiao Chun brought the secret treasures containing dragon souls to the guest room. Not wasting any time, he immediately circulated the blue dragon body nourishing art to consume these secret treasure fragments. There were too many of them. Xiao Chun spent an entire day before he finished consuming them all. Just as he had expected, this casual strike added 2 dragon strength to the foundation of 3 dragon strength. Collecting secret treasures containing dragon souls was indeed a shortcut for cultivating the blue dragon body nourishing art. Xiao Chun stood up and checked his strength. Then, he revealed a satisfied expression. With 5 dragon force and a casual strike, he could barely exchange moves with a great Grandmaster level martial sage without using a martial technique. By circulating deities descending, he could fight a great Grandmaster level martial sage without needing to multiply his combat prowess tenfold, saving a lot of energy. Xiao Chun took out the wooden box containing the 10,000-year-old flame crystal again. Then, he revealed a grave expression as he muttered to himself. "Ayo, Jiao should be back by now, right? Given Situ Lei Hong's abilities, for days should be more than enough to revive Ayo Jiao. Let's go." Not suppressing the anticipation in his heart, Xiao Chun leaped out of the window and executed the Freedom Wings so close yet worlds apart magic skill, flying towards Sword Forging Peak. With each step, Xiao Chun traveled 50 kilometers. Now he was close to 1,000 kilometers. After taking 10-odd steps, Sword Forging Peak came into view. Xiao Chun rushed up the mountain. His hurried pace stunned the many swordsmen of Sword Forging Peak. Xiao Chun had entered Sword Forging Peak many times. The swordsmen who came here all saw Xiao Chun remain calm and collected. Even when facing the mocking of a great Grandmaster-level martial sage, Xiao Chun did not get angry. At the very least, he did not show it on the surface. His pace had never been so hurried. When the swordsman looked at Xiao Chun's expression, they could easily capture a trace of nervousness. What exactly happened? Why is the white-robed Xiao Chun in such a rush? Could it be that he is under too much pressure from the upcoming duel? I heard that when Xiren is in the limelight this time, several older generation great grandmaster level martial sages fell to his saber. The younger generation bladesmen are indeed at their peak in the past few years. Unfortunately, although there are many outstanding talents of the sword Dao, there are no peak experts who can match them aside from Yin Shursin, whose whereabouts are unknown. The rarely seen nervousness on Xiao Chen's face and his hurried expression confused the swordsmen, causing them to speculate. Chapter 984. After entering the mountain manor, the bellboy led Xiao Chun to Sido Leong, who had a calm expression as he hugged the lunar shadow saber and drank tea. "Ha! Little friend Xiao Chun is here. What's wrong? You feel that you cannot defeat Wen Xiren, so you want to take the saber back in advance? I'll have to disappoint you. Without the 10,000-year-old flame crystal, I will not give you this saber." Situ Leihong smiled, but his tone did not change at all. Before Situ Leihong finished speaking, the lunar shadow saber in his embrace started trembling intensely. The force far surpassed Situ Leihong's expectations. Whoosh! The saber shot out. Xiao Chun stretched out his hand and caught the flying lunar shadow saber. Then he closed his eyes and felt it. He saw a familiar figure within the lunar shadow saber. This person's eyes were tightly shut as she floated on the lake. At first, Xiao Chun rejoiced. However, he called out in his heart. However, Ao Jiao did not open her eyes. He could not help but ask anxiously, "Senior, what's going on?" Situ Leihong grabbed with a flip of his hand, and a strong suction pulled the lunar shadow saber back into his grasp. Only then did he reveal a satisfied expression. Bang! However, in less than a second, the lunar shadow saber struggled free again and flew toward Xiao Chun. Damn! Situ Leihong cursed without the air of a grandmaster. Is this fellow that good? This old man went through a lot of trouble to save you. After cursing, Situ Leihong saw the worried expression on Xiao Chen's face. He smiled and said, "Brat, don't be unaware of your blessings. This is her fortuitous encounter. When she wakes up, this saber of yours will have a chance of ranking high on the divine weapon ranking." When Xiao Chun heard that, he immediately revealed an irrepressible expression of joy. He did not care whether he could rank high on the divine weapon ranking or not. As long as Ao Jiao really came back to life, everything would be fine. Senior Situ, I will never forget this great kindness. Xiao Chun knelt on one knee and performed a cupped fist salute to Situ Leong. A man would not kneel even if he had money. He would kneel to the heavens, the earth, and his parents. Other than that, even if you beat him to death, Xiao Chun would never kneel to a third person. However, no matter what, Situ Leihong could accept Xiao Chen's kneel, could accept Xiao Chen's bow for Ao Jiao. Situ Leihong's smiling face was embarrassed by Xiao Chen's kneeling. With a wave of his hand, he helped Xiao Chen up. He said helplessly, "You brat, you're really unable to continue." Situ Kai sighed and said, "I have seen countless people in my life. You're the only one who dares to be so stubborn over a saber. Take the saber. You can use it without worry now. With the help of this saber, your chances of victory in the fight with Wen Xiren will increase by 20%. Xiao Chun thought of something and handed the wooden box containing the 10,000-year-old flame crystal to Situ. When Situ Leihong opened the wooden box and took a look, his expression changed slightly. He smiled and said, "This Wu Xiaoyan's disciple is an interesting person. This battle is going to be interesting. Let's go. There's no need to be pretentious." Suddenly, Situ Leihong glanced around and saw Xiao Chun preparing to draw his saber in the hall. Startled, he put down the 10,000-year-old flame crystal and shouted, "Don't move." Boom! Before Situ Leihong finished speaking, he saw a flash of light. The saber light shattered the entire hall in one breath of time. A strand of saber light soared into the clouds within the mountain manor, tearing through 50 kilometers of clouds and piercing into the sky. The long line of swordsmen at Sword Forging Peak looked up in shock, not understanding what was going on. The swords in the hands of several swordsmen rang out as they broke. The entire sword-forging peak turned chaotic. Outside the famous heavenly saber city of the profound domain, there was a lake called Nine Dragons Lake. The lake water was clear and boundlessly vast. When one looked into the distance, they could not see the end of the fog. There were 9 mountain peaks around the lake. They were very tall and looked like huge dragons soaring into the clouds. The mountain peaks looked like dragons. However, the dragons that each mountain peak looked like were different. They all had very distinct characteristics. According to rumor, these 9 mountain peaks were formed by the divine dragons of the Immortal epic. In the distant past, someone once heard the mountains roar like a dragon roar, stirring and mournful. This made the legend of the mountain peaks being formed by the divine dragons seem somewhat ethereal. The mountain peaks were very tough, able to withstand a strike from the blue-robed emperor without collapsing. Each mountain peak suppressed a peak spirit vein. Back then, when the sword and saber clashed, before the saber sovereign Wu Xiaotian and the sword sovereign Lu Xiaoyan advanced to martial emperor, they fought 9 times on this 9 Dragons Lake. They had fought 9 times on the 9 Dragons Lake, and all 9 times they had ended in a draw. They had become lifelong rivals. The last time the two fought on 9 Dragons Lake, they had advanced to the blue-robed emperor at that time. They each represented the peak rising talents of the sword and saber factions of the profound domain. That battle was very soul-stirring and exciting. Even after thousands of years, it was still a well-known story, praised by everyone. The result of the battle was still a draw, but at the end of the battle. However, at the end of the battle, the two used their comprehensions to break through the bottleneck of Emperor Wu at the same time, both becoming emperors. In the sky, there were 2 descending roads of emperor, and 2 people were running together. At the same time, they stepped onto the peak and pushed open their respective doors to Emperor Wu, stepping onto the Great Tao. It was also that battle that caused the originally unknown 9 Dragon Lake to become the famous Holy Land of Duels in the Xian region. The standards were extremely high. Later, because of the frequent duels, Heavenly Saber City set a rule that only blue-robed emperor-level existences could duel here. Perhaps there really was a mysterious spiritual energy in this place. Many years later, a few more people advanced to martial emperor after dueling here, making 9 Dragons Lake even more famous. However, the grand feat of the sword sovereign Lu Xiaoyan and the saber sovereign Wu Xiaotian advancing to martial emperor together never happened again. Today, another duel would take place at 9 Dragons Lake, opening the door for 2 bladesmen of a younger generation. Neither side of the duel was as strong as the blue-robed emperor. However, they still allowed the duel to take place at 9 Dragons Lake. The reason was none other than the 2 people's names. One was the white-robed Shao Chun, and the other was the Saber Sovereign's disciple, Wen Ziren. At this moment, countless large ships and flying spirit beasts floated above the white clouds outside the mountain peak. Even more cultivators stood there. All of them looked into the distance, towards the center of 9 Dragons Lake. A blue-clad cultivator sat cross-legged in the center of the lake. This youth had delicate features and looked spotless. He exuded an ethereal air from head to toe. A long saber floated quietly on the water's surface beside the youth's left hand. Simple and unadorned patterns were carved on the saber scabbard. The complicated patterns gave off an ancient aura. An ancient word was carved on both sides of the saber's hilt, Luo River. Around the blue-clad youth were a few water people the size of a cultivator. They were currently fighting each other, practicing some kind of profound saber technique. While the blue-clad youth looked like he was resting, in reality, he did not relax at all. He made full use of every spare moment to cultivate. Several people on the ship above the clouds would occasionally turn their heads to look into the distance. Their expressions of anticipation contained some excitement and nervousness. However, every time they turned their heads back, they were disappointed. As time passed, they could not help feeling somewhat anxious. Strange, when Ziren arrived early in the morning. Why is there no sign of Shao Chun yet? It is almost noon already. This is too worrying. Naturally, the cultivators who rushed over after hearing the news were here to watch the duel between Xiao Chun and Wenziren. However, no one showed up after so long. It was hard to avoid feeling anxious. Could it be that the recent rumors are right? The saber in Xiao Chen's hand is just a decoration, completely crippled? The rumors have been spreading rather ferociously recently. I heard that Xiao Chun was severely injured in the 9 layers of purgatory and has been suppressing his injuries, unable to fight for long. I even heard that after Xiao Chun defeated Ouyang Long in 3 moves on Sword Forging Peak, he immediately vomited 3 liters of blood. I don't know who started the bet recently, but the payout for Xiao Chun is already 1-3. In the end, all the bets are on Wenziren. It looks like something is indeed wrong. Fortunately, I resisted the temptation and bet all 500,000 black astral coins on Wenziren. Me too. I bet half of my 1 million black astral coins on Wenziren. No matter what, Wenziren's strength has always been stable. His performance in this Saber School ranking competition spoke for itself. His chances of victory are at least 50%. As for Xiao Chun, it is hard to say. When bets were placed for duels, especially for famous ones, there would normally be people opening bets. This was not a rare thing in the Kunlun realm. At this moment, the sun was high in the sky. Noon was about to pass, but there was still no sign of Xiao Chun. Everyone could not help feeling suspicious. Above the white clouds, on the deck of the profound domains Ing clan's warship, Kim Taeho continuously calculated the bets he had received since the bets opened. Lord Gio stood at the side, clearly excited. The amount of bets was unexpectedly large. If the results were as Fatso said, they would have made a huge profit this time. However, if they lost, not only would they have to pay back all the astral coins they obtained from selling the illegal goods, but they would also have to work for the Ing clan for the rest of their lives to repay the debt. The two of them were not famous. Naturally, they had to find someone to vouch for them. Kim Taeho had a glib tongue, getting Ing Cheong to vouch for them. Hence, the bets opened smoothly. Lord Gio said nervously, "Why does this Lord Gio feel a little nervous?" "Fatso, aren't you going overboard with this rumor? What if Xiao Chun really loses?" Kim Taeho shouted, "How can that be? 3 days ago, a strand of saber chi destroyed most of the manor on Sword Forging Peak. Others might not know, but this fat lord is absolutely certain that the lunar shadow saber has completely recovered." However, Ing Cheong, who was at the side, smiled softly and said, "That is hard to say. Even if the lunar shadow saber is unsheathed and Xiao Chen's strength increases significantly, Wenziren's river water saber is not something to be trifled with. The saber's sovereign Wu Xiaotian put in a lot of effort to enter the divine weapon ranking in the future for the sake of this river water saber." Kim Taeho said embarrassedly, "Little sister, don't scare this fat lord. If this fat lord loses, the one who will suffer the greatest loss will be you." A crafty look flashed in Ing Cheong's eyes as she sized up Kim Taeho. Then, she nodded and smiled. "Don't worry. This lady naturally has a way to recoup my losses from you. You better pray to God and Buddha to protect yourself." "What are you trying to do?" "This fat lord is not selling his body," Kim Taeho said as he quickly took a few steps back, feeling flustered from Ing Cheong's gaze. Ing Cheong could not help laughing. She burst out in laughter and said, "Dream on. With all that fat on your body, how much is 1 kilogram? Ka, ka, ka." The water figures materializing mysterious martial techniques around the blue-robed bladesman when Wenziren suddenly shattered, turning into droplets of rain falling from the sky. Such a change instantly attracted everyone's attention. Wenziren opened his eyes and grasped the river water saber beside him. Then he slowly stood up and stared at the empty water in front. Chapter 985. He was as gentle as water as he stood quietly on the water. His facial features were not considered handsome, but his sharpness was withdrawn. It was like he had merged with the entire Nine Dragons Lake. The Tao was natural, and the saber was like the Tao. He was like a treasured saber that drifted with the waves. Bang! The space in front folded up. The mountains and rivers turned hazy and indistinct. A white figure took a step forward in an extremely distant place. In the next moment, he stood on the lake, 1 kilometer away from Wenziren. Ing Qiong's gaze immediately shifted over, and a strange light flashed in his eyes. Xiao Chun is here. He finally came. If he had come any later, the sun would have set. Right now, our profound domain's bladesmen firmly suppress the swordsmen. Today, the battle between two peak rising talents will definitely be a feast for the eyes. Xiao Chen's appearance allowed everyone to heave a sigh of relief. Otherwise, the long-awaited duel would be ruined. Everyone would feel that it was a pity. Sorry for the delay. So I came late, Xiao Chen said apologetically as he performed a cupped fist salute after sizing up Wenziren. It is not too late to come before the sun sets. How about competing with the saber first? Wenziren's aura was like water, but his character was extremely decisive. He did not hesitate at all. The moment he arrived, he immediately prepared for the duel. From a certain point of view, Wenziren was very similar to Xiao Chun. They were both people who did not like to speak nonsense. Xiao Chun nodded to indicate that he had no objections. Then, the two's right hands silently grasped their saber hilts at the same time. At this moment, the two's auras suddenly changed. In that instant, all of their sharpness exploded out. Thousands of sabers clashed, resounding over the vast lake, clanging endlessly. Thousands upon thousands of water pillars containing boundless saber intent soared into the sky above the lake, soaring into the clouds. A resplendent light, as bright as the sun shone. The lunar shadow sword and the river water left the two's right hands at the same time, shooting forward like meteors. Just like that, the atmosphere of a great battle suddenly descended. No one expected the two to be so decisive, starting the duel without saying anything. What was a duel of sabers? Bladesmen were no stranger to this. Simply put, it was drawing one saber in an instant. The moment they clashed in midair, whoever's saber was knocked away would be the loser. This seemingly simple action contained too many factors: aura, cultivation, will, saber soul, the angle at which the saber was drawn, the control of the environment, and everyone's comprehension of saber techniques. The slightest mistake would put him at a disadvantage in the saber competition. In addition to the above, there was another very important factor, which was the saber itself. When an ordinary saber clashed with a high-grade famed saber, it went without saying who had the upper hand. In a situation where both sides had similar talents, the saber itself was the deciding factor in a saber duel. Seeing Xiao Chun agree to Wenziren's request without hesitation, the many cultivators watching outside the white clouds were all startled. Who in the profound domain did not know that Wenziren's river water saber was personally forged by the saber sovereign, Wu Xiaotian? The materials used and the effort put in were all for the divine weapon ranking. Although it was only a subdivine weapon now, as long as it advanced to a divine weapon, it would charge into the divine weapon ranking. It would become one of the 10 great divine weapons. The divine might it contained rivaled that of a primordial emperor treasure. The famed river water saber was famous everywhere. In the past few years, this saber had chopped down countless older generation cultivators. Who knew how many treasures had been chopped in half by the river water saber? During the saber school ranking competition, Wenziren had used this saber to chop down 8 great grandmaster level martial sages, ranking within the top 10 of the saber school ranking. This had also pushed the prestige of this saber to the peak. This Xiao Chun is too arrogant to think that he really dares to compete with Wenziren. How unfortunate. Originally, I was looking forward to this battle. Now, there is nothing to see. If his saber is not good, he could have just said so. Why the need to be stubborn? Given Wenziren's character, he will definitely give up on competing with the saber. Both sides will fight with sabers of the same quality. With that, he still wants to participate in the king conferral ceremony. I think he should stop embarrassing himself. Who cares? I bet on Wenziren winning. That's true. Rumors spread everywhere. Many bladesmen expressed that it was a pity. These people could not be blamed for having such one-sided discussions. This was because the fame of the river water saber had flourished in a profound domain in the past few years. Lord Jio's ears were very sharp. When he heard the discussions around, he could not help but feel even more uncertain. Fatso, are your words accurate or not? At this moment, Kim Tae-ho felt uncertain as well. He could not help but look at Ing Cheong. Ing Cheong's expression turned grave as he muttered to himself, "This is rather strange." Given Wen Xiren's character, he would not ask to compete with his saber despite knowing that his saber is better. What's going on? When Kim Tae-ho heard that, he immediately showed a bitter expression. It's over. This fat lord is really going to fail this time. Regardless of what the others were discussing, the lunar shadow saber above the lake. The lunar shadow saber gave off a resplendent purple light. Electricity gathered and spun in the air, creating strands of flickering electricity. This caused the sky to turn dark for some reason. When Xiao Chun looked up, thunderclouds spread out in the sky as the lunar shadow saber danced. The surging thunderclouds were like true dragons swimming with the saber, breathing and swallowing the clouds. The wind, clouds, thunder, and lightning in the surroundings all moved with it. When Xiao Chun swung his saber, the world moved. Xiao Chun grasped the essence of the saber perfectly. However, the more this was so, the more the spectating cultivators felt it was a pity. Such exquisite saber skills were sufficient to prove that Xiao Chun lived up to his reputation. However, the saber in his hand was not up to par. He would definitely lose if he competed with the saber. Several people even sighed softly. It was not for anything else, but because there would be one less exciting battle between bladesmen. This might become a regret of their lives. On the other side, Wen Xiren's saber was as gentle as water. It had a gentle aura, like flowing water. However, as Wen Xiren drew his saber, the aura of this saber also changed in an instant. The roar of a mountain torrent erupted between the heavens and the earth, covering the surroundings and competing with the sound of thunder. The saber spun endlessly. Watery clouds covered the sky, and a heavy downpour fell. The rainwater was like a saber. When it landed on the water, it sounded like many treasured sabers humming and trembling. The falling rainwater turned into thousands of strands hidden at the bottom of the lake. As the undercurrents surged, the humming of the saber sounded like a powerful dragon roar, lingering on endlessly. It resonated with the watery clouds in the sky, resisting the 50 kilometers of thunderclouds bearing fangs and claws together. The famed saber, the river water, fell into the water like a saber. Amid the cool breeze and drizzle, the blue-robed Wen Xiren stood on the surface of the lake, looking spotless. As he did so, a dragon roar sounded. Time seemed to stop on this Nine Dragons Lake. Xiao Chun and Wen Xiren stood calmly on the water. The horrifying, mysterious phenomenon in the surroundings did not affect them at all. It was like the hearts of bladesmen, absolutely calm and rational. Nothing could disturb them. As the two spinning sabers approached each other, several of the spectating cultivators in the sky could not help but close their eyes, unwilling to watch. The result was set from the very start. Without a divine weapon, what saber in the world could defeat the famed river water saber in a competition of sabers? Ing Xiong's heart could not help pounding heavily. Anxiety appeared in his eyes as he muttered to himself, "This idiot, that is the famed river water saber, a treasure saber that the saber sovereign Wu Xiaotian forged for the sake of breaking into the divine weapon ranking. Isn't he very smart all along? Why did he agree to compete with the saber without thinking?" Of course, time would not really stop. However, the two sabers storing up power gave others the misconception that time had slowed down. What would come. The instant the two sabers were about to clash, they suddenly accelerated. They were as fast as a glimpse, surpassing the speed of most cultivators' eyes. Then they quickly clashed. Before everyone could understand what was going on, they heard a crisp sound coming from the center of the lake. Where the two sabers clashed, a light encased them. Electricity flickered as two dragons clashed. The water spouts soared into the sky and instantly swept up the two sabers, turning the chaotic situation even more chaotic. For a moment, no one could see what was going on. Thunderclouds and water clouds clashed in the sky. Loud sounds reverberated in all directions. Layers of clouds scattered like the sky was shattering, looking exceptionally scary. The undercurrent of the dragon roars on the surface of the lake under when Xiren's feet slowly faded. Ripples spread across the surface of the lake, and waves surged wildly. When Xiren moved up and down with the waves. At some point in time, blood leaked out of a corner of his lips. What's going on? When everyone saw the blood at the corner of when Xiren's lips, and then looked at the calm white-robed Xiao Chun, they suddenly felt that something was wrong. However, at the place where the two sabers clashed, light flashed, and dragon roars rang out endlessly. No one could see the result clearly. Someone whispered, "The instant the two sabers clashed, I seemed to hear the sound of saber breaking." Could it be that someone's saber broke? That should be Xiao Chen's saber, the famed river water saber. If a divine weapon does not appear, no saber can break it. It looks like after Xiao Chen's saber broke, when Xiren was significantly injured as well. That makes sense. How unfortunate. This is truly unfortunate. Although I do not want to say it, white-robed Xiao Chun lost unjustly. No one believed that the river water saber could break. Since a saber broke, it had to be Xiao Chen's saber. Kim Taeho looked around and laughed loudly. He fanned himself and said, "Little sister Ing Qiong, this fat lord is going to relieve himself. My stomach is disappointing." Sensing that something was wrong, Fatso quickly tried to flee. However, he had only taken one step when a few Ing clan cultivators blocked his way with murderous expressions. Bang! Lord Jiu, who had slipped out earlier, was tossed back to the deck. He had an awkward smile on his face. When Fatso saw the situation, he immediately shut his mouth and squatted on the ground with a bitter expression. If one did not know better, one would think that he was constipated. Ing Xiong ignored these two clowns. Her pretty face was filled with uncertainty, disappointment, and worry. Bang! The chaotic scene in the center of the lake slowly scattered. The waterspout fell back to the surface, and the thunderclouds and watery clouds in the sky also vanished. A beam of sunlight descended, and a bright light shone. Under the blazing sun, the surface of the lake shimmered, making it look very bright. After everything calmed down, only a saber remained hovering above the lake. The saber stood proudly facing the blazing sun, flickering with a dazzling light. Chapter 986. That's not right. That is not Luo water. That is the lunar shadow saber. Suddenly, someone's expression changed greatly. He opened his mouth and cried out in shock, as if he had seen the most unreasonable thing in the world. An uproar immediately spread among all the spectating martial artists. What happened? Where's when Xiren's saber? Impossible. This is impossible. It must be an illusion. However, as when Xiren stretched out his hand to the bottom of the lake, he grabbed the two halves of the river water saber. An unacceptable fact had happened just like that. Countless sabers broke. The famed Luo River, which carried the saber sovereign Wu Xiaoyan's hopes, broke. No one had expected that the result would be like this. It was the famed saber Luo Shui that was broken. As for the saber that belonged to Xiao Chun, it still stood proudly in the air, shining with a dazzling brilliance. The surroundings were silent for a long time. On the Ing family's battleship, Kim Taeho's jaw dropped. He wiped the sweat off his forehead and smiled. "You almost scared this Lord Fatty to death. I really can't open this board so carelessly in the future." The solemn expression on Ing Qiong's face slowly relaxed, and a knowing smile appeared on his face. On Nine Dragons Lake, when Xiren held the broken saber, his expression was somewhat shocked, but he did not feel too surprised. When Xiren smiled faintly and put away the broken saber, then he wiped off the blood at the corner of his lips and looked at Xiao Chun. "I heard from Master 3 days ago that you obtained a good saber at Sword Forging Manor. However, I did not expect it to be so strong. What is the name of this saber?" "Lunar Shadow." Xiao Chun waved his hand and returned his saber to its sheath, answering honestly. When Xiren muttered to himself for a while. Then, he raised his head and smiled. "Lunar Shadow, that is a pretty good name. I will remember it. Let's continue the duel." Upon hearing when Xiren's words, The surrounding cultivators frowned slightly. When Xiren's saber was already broken, why did he still want to compete? Shao Chun withdrew his palm and put away the lunar shadow saber. He nodded and said, "I will not use a saber in this battle. You can choose another saber." Shao Chun cultivated the flawless saber Dao. Having a saber in his hand was just icing on the cake. It wouldn't affect his combat strength, but it was different for the other party. When Xiren smiled and said, "There is no need to choose a saber. The Luo water art that I cultivate has a great advantage in this Nine Dragons Lake. I have long heard of the flawless saber Dao. Let me see how extraordinary the saber Dao that made the ancient people show their sages is." Shao Chun was not a stubborn and inflexible person. He could tell that when Xiren had already accepted the outcome of this battle. What he wanted was nothing more than to find an opponent who was on par with him so that he could make a breakthrough in this battle. Since that was the case, then he would have nothing to worry about and fight to his heart's content. The two of them looked at each other and saw the raging fighting spirit in each other's eyes. The calm lake water surged with undercurrents. It was as if a great dragon hidden in the depths of the lake had opened its eyes and was accumulating power to soar into the sky. Feeling this atmosphere, the many cultivators on the warship and spirit birds all shut their mouths, waiting for an exciting battle to begin. Unexpectedly, the one to make the first move was Xiren, who had broken his saber. When Xiren smashed his palm on the water, there was a loud boom. 9 huge, 3-kilometer-tall waves surged out in all directions. The waves surged forward like huge dragons. 9 dragons roared ferociously, giving off a strong aura that could swallow up the world. In an instant, they buried Shao Chun within them. Shao Chun's gaze sank. The 9 huge dragon-like waves surged over. Each of them contained at least 10,000 tons of force. When they merged, they could even crush a tall mountain. Most importantly, every one of the 1,000-zhang tall waves contained a peerless sharpness. That was when Xiren's great perfection saber soul, which perfectly merged with the will of water. When Xiren drove his peak strength with just a gentle palm strike. Even without a saber, when Xiren could not be underestimated. Many of the spectating cultivators were bladesmen. When they saw Xiren's palm strike, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. If they faced this palm strike, they would most likely be crushed into meat paste on the spot, dying without a complete corpse. When Xiren threw a palm strike and muttered to himself, "Shao Chun, this is just the beginning. Don't disappoint me." The waves formed the momentum of the 9 dragons. The instant they were about to merge, Shao Chun made his move. A saber light lit up on Shao Chun's body. His body became like a saber, his shoulders like a saber, and his hair like sabers. As his figure moved, he sent out 9 saber strikes. His shoulders, hair, palms, and other parts of his body clashed with the 9 waves. 9 explosions rang out. Outside 9 Dragons Lake, the 9 peaks trembled and gave off dragon roars, echoing for 50 kilometers around. As the sound waves spread out, the surrounding warships and spirit beasts seemed to be moved by a huge hand, flipping many of them over. Such a strange turn of events caused the remaining cultivators to feel fear in their hearts. They all rode on their warships and spirit beasts and retreated. Right after when Xiren broke the 9 waves, he used the many layers of water to charge over to Shao Chun in the blink of an eye. Bang! 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 Endless waves rose up on the 9 Dragons Lake. The two of them exchanged moves quickly, flying quickly over the vast lake. When Xiren used water as a saber, with a casual swing, the scattered lake water turned into boundless saber lights. With a thought, a wave containing strong force became the most ferocious saber technique. The sound of water surged endlessly. By relying on the terrain, when Xiren's aura actually surpassed that of Shao Chun's. Even though when Xiren clearly did not have a saber in his hand, his aura flourished, each wave stronger than the one before. The river water incantation. I heard that the saber sovereign Wu Shaotian found this cultivation technique in an ancient remnant. When Xiren truly lives up to his reputation as a genius, he probably practiced this ancient cultivation technique to great perfection, just one step short of consummation. I really did not expect that after losing the river water saber, Zyron could still hold the upper hand. Zyron's strength made everyone's eyes light up, causing many praises to ring out. Xiaochen remained calm. Zyron's cultivation was one cultivation grade higher than his. His comprehension of the water saber, Dao, had already reached an extremely deep level. Zyron could turn water into a saber as he pleased, giving him a great advantage in this Nine Dragons Lake. If Xiaochen did not use the Lunar Shadow Saber, he would have a hard time dealing with such a person. Actually, the main problem was that Xiaochen only used his saber techniques in this battle to show his respect. If he used the Myriad Heaven Divine Fist, immortal arts, magic skills, and a strong physical body, he would be able to defeat Zyron in 100 moves. If Xiaochen wanted to defeat the bladeless Zyron, he would only need 100 moves. However, Zyron's saber was already broken in this battle. Victory was no longer Xiaochen's goal. Dragons roared endlessly as the two in the lake fought an intense battle. Xiaochen brought out his flawless saber, Dao, to its limits. His opponent's exquisite water saber, Dao, broadened his mind significantly. For example, the other party's killing move, Moon and Water, was a great eye-opener for Xiaochen. After witnessing the moon in the water, Flawless Bright Moon experienced a qualitative improvement. Flawless Bright Moon, Flawless Four Seasons, and Subduing Dragon Profound Slash. The three strongest moves of his saber techniques. Xiaochen executed them one after another, relying on the vast Nine Dragons Lake. Although Zyron had a hard time receiving them, he managed to receive them one by one, preventing himself from collapsing on the spot. After 1,000 moves, both sides gained something. The victor was still undecided. However, both of them sat cross-legged on the lake, closing their eyes and thinking. On one side, it was drizzling. On the other, lightning occasionally flashed in the sky. Such a scene confused the other cultivators. This was clearly a duel. Why were both sides in such a rush to decide victor? After a long time, Xiaochen opened his eyes, and the light in his eyes became withdrawn. In this battle, Xiaochen did not hold back at all in terms of saber techniques. He could be said to have met his match, fighting to his heart's content. This was like a great test, allowing Xiaochen to gain a comprehensive understanding of his saber techniques. At this moment, as long as Xiaochen willed it, he could easily cross the line between superior grade martial sage and grandmaster level martial sage, becoming a grandmaster level martial sage. After that, when Zyron opened his eyes and said calmly, "I lost this duel. Let's fight again at Nine Dragons Lake 3 years from now. The victor is not decided yet. Let's just treat it as a draw." When Zyron smiled faintly and said, "To me, victory or defeat is nothing. You still have tricks up your sleeves. How can I not tell? I believe that you will give everyone a shock at the King Conferral Ceremony 2 months from now." Xiaochen was very relaxed as he chatted with Zyron. The two just sat on the lake and chatted, discussing their views on each other's saber techniques. As they chatted and laughed, the two performed cup fist salutes and said their goodbyes. "Should we enter Heavenly Saber City and rest for a while? There are many spectators with ulterior motives," when Zyron suggested as he looked into the distance. If the land of the 3 holy masters really reached an agreement with the 3 sovereign noble clans of the human race, then this duel between Xiaochen and Zyron would be an excellent opportunity for the other party to make a move. How could Xiaochen not guess this? He had expected it long ago, so he did not fear these people. After entering Heavenly Saber City, Xiaochen would have to come out sooner or later, so he rejected Zyron's invitation. This duel ended with Zyron taking the initiative to admit defeat. The spectators slowly scattered. This duel could not be considered startling. Aside from the initial exchange of sabers, which was very exciting and soul-stirring, the subsequent duel between the two was grand and shocking. However, neither side showed any intention of competing with the other. Rather than calling it a duel, it was more like an exchange of pointers between bladesmen. Both sides were evenly matched, testing each other's moves. There was no desire to win. All the bladesmen present were incredibly excited. As Xiaochen and Zyron exchanged moves, They merged the saber techniques and saber Tao that they had learned and comprehended. Each of them combined the saber arts and saber Tao that they had learned and comprehended. More or less, they all gained something from it. Shao Chun gently floated up and arrived on the Ying clan's warship. On the bow, Kim Tae-ho and Lord Jiao were grinning from ear to ear. When they saw Shao Chun board, they quickly went forward to greet him. "Can you lend this fat lord your Dragon's Gate's warship for a while?" Kim Tae-ho asked in anticipation as he rubbed his hands together. Lord Jiao, who was at the side, said, "Fatso won quite a lot from the opening of the bets. He is planning to reopen a merchant association without a warship or status." Shao Chun smiled faintly and said, "Take it. I'll take some time to send a letter to Shui Lingling and get the Haotian sect to take care of your business. If you have any difficulties in the future, you can come and look for me directly." Ying Xiong walked over slowly and said softly, "Hee hee, big sister will invest the money you borrowed from me. Can I make a big share?" When Kim Tae-ho heard this, he rejoiced and nodded continuously. With the support of the Haotian sect and the Ying clan, given Shao Chun's means, it would be hard for this merchant association not to become big. "Thank you for thinking so highly of me. In less than 3 years, this fat lord will definitely achieve some results." After chatting for a while, Fatso stood up and took his leave. Lord Jiao quickly followed. After asking, Shao Chun found out that Fatso had hired Lord Jiao to be his bodyguard. Chapter 987. When Shao Chun heard this, his expression could not help but turn somewhat strange. He could not help but laugh to himself. Kim Tae-ho was really good at picking people to be his bodyguard. Lord Jiao might not be good at anything else, but when it came to escaping, even Shao Chun had to admit that he was not as good as Lord Jiao. Ying Xiong waved his hand and dismissed everyone on the warship. Then he asked seriously, "Shao Chun, do you really not want me to send someone to escort you to the Tianwu Domain's central province?" The journey to the central province's Bushin Palace was very long. There were too many accidents and possibilities. Ying Xiong could not help but worry. Shao Chun shook his head and said, "There's no need. This should be the final test the Haotian Emperor gave me. If he really wants to send me, he can tear space and send me there in an instant. I still have to walk this path myself." Seeing Shao Chun's insistence, Ying Xiong sighed to himself. He knew that the other party would not change his mind. He said softly, "Since that is the case, I will not try to dissuade you. Remember, you must succeed in the king conferral ceremony. Many of the old people in the clan are watching you. If you fail, too much time has passed. Some promises might not be able to withstand the test of time." Shao Chun's heart skipped a beat. He vaguely guessed what the other party meant. The Sky Dome Realms Ying clan must have been sent by the Kunlun Realms Ying clan to protect the Shao clan's descendant. From the looks of it, the Ying clan might be a contingency plan left behind by the Qing Emperor before he fell 10,000 years ago. However, whether Shao Chun could help him or not would depend on his performance. "I will. From the moment I reveal my identity, the title of Blue Dragon King was destined to be mine." The Bushin Palace did not belong to one or a few people. It represented the alliance of the entire human race, ruling over the vast Tianwu domain. There were also the countless stars in the starry heavens. Such a rule had lasted since the ancient era until now. This rule was deeply ingrained in every human cultivator. The Bushin Palace was the most legitimate ruler of the human race. The title granted by Bushin Palace was very important. This was not just an empty reputation. It also represented a kind of luck, one that was recognized by all the human cultivators. The title of Blue Dragon King was not won by the Qing Emperor. Instead, it was left behind by the founder of the Dragon Gate, a sacred land that had disappeared. The Dragon Gate's existence could also be traced back to the ancient era, which was even older than the Qing Emperor. However, the Dragon Gate developed to a peak in the hands of the Qing Emperor. As a result, when people mentioned the Dragon Gate, they would refer to it as the Qing Emperor's Dragon Gate. Every generation's Dragon Gate Master was the current generation's Blue Dragon King. This title was extremely important to Shao Chun. Without this title, when they rebuilt the Dragon's Gate in the future, they would lose their status. they would not be recognized by the hundreds of millions of human cultivators. Without luck, they would not be able to rebuild the Dragon's Gate. Shao Chun gently leaped off the warship and landed on the ground. Then he raised his head and looked into the distance. Then he started on this journey that he could only rely on himself to reach. As Shao Chun traveled on a small mountain path, he was not in a rush. Instead, he continued to digest his gains from the battle with Wenziren. Flawless bright moon. Did the night or the moon come first? Was it the flawless night that made the moon flawless? Or was it the flawless bright moon that made the night perfect and flawless? Without the setting of the night, there would not be the radiance of the bright moon. After thinking for 3 days, Shao Chun finally figured out the relationship between the two. Only the darkest night could bring out the most perfect moon. The peaceful days lasted for a month. Just as Shao Chun was about to step out of the profound domain, a group of purple-clad people stopped him. These people were not the people of the Yin, Jiang, or Lin noble clans. They were all cultivators of the Purple Night Sword sect. There were not many of them, only about 20. Every one of them was at least a martial sage. With Shao Chun's current judgment, these people's cultivations could not be considered high. However, all of them gave off a sharp light. Without exception, these people were all swordsmen who comprehended sword intent. The person leading them was the great Grandmaster-level martial sage, Ouyang Long. Back at Sword Forging Peak, Shao Chun had let Ouyang Long off. There was another person beside Ouyang Long. This person was even older and gave off the aura of someone past his prime. It was unknown if he was an old monster who had lived for several hundred years. This person was not in closed-door cultivation, but was thinking about how to break through to the blue-robed Emperor realm. Unexpectedly, Ouyang Long pulled him out. This lineup before Shao Chun was about half the strength of the Purple Night Sword sect. Even as a great Grandmaster-level martial sage, Ouyang Long could not mobilize them. It looked like someone had convinced the Purple Night Sword sect. Shao Chun remained silent. He only remembered the name Purple Night Sword sect in his heart. Ouyang Long was in high spirits. He smiled and said, "Haha, Shao Chun, you have been very impressive in the profound domain these days. Unfortunately, you will not be able to return alive. Give this old man a longevity fruit, and this old man will not interfere with your journey to the central province." The white-haired old man beside Ouyang Long said in a somewhat hoarse voice. Shao Chun's gaze did not linger on this group of people for long. He looked down from the sky and smiled. "Even if I give you another 500 years of lifespan, it would be a waste. You will only have the life of a great Grandmaster-level martial sage. Feeding it to the dogs is better than wasting it on you." The white-haired old man raged. "What a sharp-tongued brat. Today, this old man will use your corpse to feed the dogs. Lay the formation." Right after the white-haired old man spoke, 20 martial sages with sword intent drew their swords and leaped into the air. Sonic booms rang out. Strong sword intents quickly merged in the air. Once they landed, a huge purple night sword formation would form. With this sword formation, coupled with the strength of Ouyang Long and the white-haired old man, anyone under the blue-robed emperor would find it hard to escape death. Clang! However, just as the sword intents merged, a saber light lit up on Shao Chun's body. A great perfection saber soul, containing the will of thunder, surged out from Shao Chun's body. A resonant saber hum resounded, and a saber intent as vast as the sea spread out from Shao Chun's body. At the most suitable opportunity, Shao Chun instantly shattered the sword intents of these 20 martial sages, not giving them a chance to build up their power to its peak. Shao Chun's figure moved, and countless saber lights flashed out of his body. Miserable cries resounded. The 20 martial sages had just leaped up when they vomited blood and fell to the ground, severely injured. Shao Chun thought to himself, "How unfortunate. There are too many of them. If there were not more than 10, with their scattered sword intents, he could instantly kill them all." The thing that the flawless saber Dao feared the least was being surrounded. With one move, Shao Chun injured 20 martial sages who comprehended sword intent. Ouyang Long and the white-haired old man were greatly startled. Their plans were completely ruined. Whoosh! The white-haired old man's figure flashed, and he decisively retreated, completely betraying Ouyang Long. That old bastard! Ouyang Long cursed in his heart. Then he turned around, preparing to flee. However, a white figure blocked Ouyang Long's path. I wonder, where did you get the courage to try and kill me? A swordsman who has not comprehended a sword soul is already nothing in my eyes. Xiao Chun looked coldly at Ouyang Long without any expression on his face. Damn it! A ferocious look flashed in Ouyang Long's eyes. He drew his sword, and a sharp light turned into a sword light piercing towards Xiao Chun at lightning speed. Ouyang Long wanted to force Xiao Chun away and create a chance for himself to leave. This sword strike contained all of Ouyang Long's strength. The sword light was so resplendent that no one dared to look at it directly. The sharpness of the sword light could pierce through a tall mountain. However, without a soul, no matter how strong it was just for show. Xiao Chun did not move at all. The instant the sword light touched his body, he stretched out his hand and clamped down. The two fingers of his right hand firmly clamped down on the sword. Buzz! A strong force came from his sword. Xiao Chun's clothes and hair fluttered wildly. Spider-like cracks spread out under his feet. In the next moment, countless boulders soared into the air behind Xiao Chun. They were densely packed and covered the sky. However, Xiao Chun did not move at all. He only used two fingers to clamp down on this great Grandmaster-level martial sage's sword. Xiao Chun's body was like a saber, as steady as a mountain. His exceptional sharpness intimidated everyone. Ouyang Long's old face flushed red. A bona fide, great Grandmaster-level martial sage with more than 300 years of cultivation actually had his sword clamped down on by a junior's fingers. Ding! Just as Ouyang Long struggled with all his might, tried to pull his sword out, a sword light charged at Xiao Chun's back. It was the white-haired old man who had returned. He smiled sinisterly and said, "The older, the wiser. Brat die." The white-haired old man had grasped this opportunity very well. It happened to be when Xiao Chun clamped down on Ouyang Long's sword. If Xiao Chun gave up now, it would give Ouyang Long a chance to attack. This sword strike contained all of Ouyang Long's cultivation. At the very least, it could pierce through Xiao Chun. If Xiao Chun did not give up, he would be stuck in a dilemma. He would not be able to dodge the white-haired old man's sword strike. Hence, Ouyang Long felt incredibly cocky, smiling coldly. He felt that even if Xiao Chun did not die, he would be severely injured. Clang! Clang! Xiao Chun smiled faintly. He was not surprised at the white-haired old man's sword strike. Xiao Chun exerted force with his two fingers, and the blue dragon energy in his body circulated quickly. Thunder roared in his body. Before Ouyang Long's incredulous expression, Xiao Chun twisted his fingers, and the sword shattered. Ouyang Long vomited a mouthful of blood and went flying back. Then, Xiao Chun turned around and stretched out his hand. Like a treasured saber, all the sharpness gathered at his fingertip. A melodious sound rang out. That was the melodious hum of a saber. The night sky instantly turned pitch black. One could not see their fingers when they stretched out their hands, covering the sky. The instant night completely descended. Xiao Chun's fingertip happened to touch the tip of the white-haired old man's sword. The white-haired old man's vision went dark. Before he could adapt to this new environment, he saw a flash of light. Kassier! Kassier! The sound of the sword breaking rang out again. When the light grew brighter, a crescent moon shot out from Xiao Chun's fingertip. The light flashed and chopped the white-haired old man in half. Then, it soared into the sky. The crescent moon spun gently and turned into a bright moon hanging high in the sky. Xiao Chun looked at the full moon in the sky and revealed a satisfied expression. He muttered to himself, "Not bad. This is the true, flawless bright moon. First comes the night, then the moon. When the night is perfect and flawless, naturally, the moon will not be stained by dust." However, there were several other reasons why Xiao Chun could kill the other party, a great Grandmaster-level martial sage, in one move. Firstly, the other party had been careless. Secondly, This was probably the first time the other party faced such a miraculous saber technique. Most importantly, rather than calling the other party a swordsman, he was more like a scoundrel. All he had was his cultivation. He was far from being a powerful, great grandmaster-level martial sage. Furthermore, he was on the verge of death and had lost his drive. When Xiao Chun killed him, he was like a withered piece of rotten wood. It was not worth it. He was too proud.